This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
All right, happy Friday, everyone. What's going on? Beautiful day here in the Peg. Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Andrew Paterson, Michael Remis with you for the next couple hours. Finishing it off with the world-famous WST marble race. Be sure to stick around live on YouTube for the end of the program. But we got a banger today. Ken Wiebe is going to join us. Been waiting to wrap the season with Weber, who we actually spoke to last Thursday, not as usual Friday. So it'll be the first time Ken's been on since Game 5, Rick Bonus's comments, as well as that wild weekend down at Canada Life Center. So sort of a season wrap-up with Weber to finish up the season wrap-up week here on WST and a look ahead to the off-season. We're also, speaking of wrapping things up, going to wrap up our Unsung Hero program with our friends at Wallace & Wallace and the Dream Factory and welcome in Dream Factory Ambassador and NHL All-Star defenseman Josh Morrissey coming off his career year. Really looking forward to that. We'll have Josh in the first hour of the program, Ken after that. We'll also begin our weekly Connect with the Winnipeg Goldeyes. General Manager Andrew Collier will give us a little bit of an update on how the first couple days of camp went, what the squad's looking like, as well as what we can look forward to seeing food and drink-wise at the ballpark coming up this year. And it is Derby weekend, the Kentucky Derby. First run of the Triple Crown goes on Saturday. So Kirt Contois from Assiniboia Downs is going to jump on. I'm sure he can fill us in as well on just how busy things are around the track as they get ready for opening day on May 22nd. But we'll focus in on tomorrow's race, which should go around 6 p.m. Winnipeg time. We've got to get to playoffs. Massive signing by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers that was celebrated heavily by Winnipeg Blue Bomber fans yesterday since we've been off the air. So we got a lot to get to heading into the weekend. Great to have you all with us. If you're new, you're finding us. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that red subscribe button and definitely hit that thumbs up if you wouldn't mind on the YouTube channel and let us help spread the Winnipeg Sports Talk content around the internet. And of course, if you're finding us on YouTube, you can always get us every day on audio podcasts, wherever you get your favorite podcast. Just search Winnipeg Sports Talk and hit subscribe. All right, just before we bring in Reem, got to thank the sponsors that make this show happen each and every day. Goldeyes, ASD, Modern Man, Barbershop, Aquatech, Manitoba Battery, Canadian Club, Nick and Nicky DQ, F Apparel, Wallace & Wallace, Vida Health, Fresh Market, Princess Auto, Consolidated Supply, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Breezy Bend, Aikens Lake, Little Brown Jug, our betting partner over at Coolbet Canada. And of course, we will get to a why not question of the day for Not Auto Corp over at Waverly and McGilvery. Let's get to it. Welcome in Michael Remis to the show. What's going on, Reem?
I'm feeling good, Huss. Friday, weekend's coming up, but also this weather. I know we're going to talk some ball and some Assiniboia Downs racing, well, Kentucky Derby, but also talking about what's coming up at the Downs too. So it's feeling a bit like summer. I put on the AC the last couple days just for a bit. Man, I don't know. I'm starting to feel good, Huss.
Well, you even got the winter tires off this morning as well.
I had a lot of stuff going on at the house. Yeah, I got the winter tires off. I'm ready. Got my car cleaned. First good clean that I've had in a couple years. So I'm set here. I'm ready to drive down Corden with the windows rolled down, blasting the most annoying music possible.
Well, I can't wait to see that. That'll be, well, you certainly won't be the only one. As someone that's lived on that street for a long time, You're definitely not the only one. But listen, just the fact that it's nice outside, got the patios, I'm sure Bar I will be packed this afternoon heading into the weekend. And lots to get to. I mean, of course, it's off-season time for the Winnipeg Jets. We've sort of been focusing on that aftermath of the weekend. Ken Wiebe will join us, as I mentioned, off the top a little bit later on in the program. And looking forward to catching up with Josh Morrissey on his season, as well as a look ahead to the offseason and next year, as well as his work with Dream Factory and our Unsung Hero program, which he was so nice to be a part of this year. But unfortunately, Reem, the one thing we can tell you right off the bat is the dreams of JMO being J-No this year, not happening, as the Norris Trophy finalists were announced yesterday evening. And Josh Morrissey wasn't one of the top three. Erik Karlsson, we knew was going to be there based on the incredible offensive numbers that he put up. Adam Fox also got a nod as a Norris finalist, being a former winner. And another former winner, Cale Makar, despite only playing 60 games, was the third finalist. So I think most people didn't think that Josh would probably win the award, especially with the historic offensive season that Erik Karlsson had. But I will say I was disappointed not to hear our guy not get a nod as at least one of the top three in the league, considering the amazing season that he had.
Yeah, did they forget that Winnipeg had a team second among defensemen in points, tied for second with Quinn Hughes? Josh had an amazing season. He set franchise records for points by defensemen. He had a great year, and we thought, early on that he would get some recognition. Maybe the Jets' second half slide impacted part of that, but look, I don't think it takes away that he had a great season, and disappointing that I don't think we're going to have a Jet we're waiting for Vezina nominees, right? Because we're going into the year in October. It's funny, in November, December, we're like, man, Jets could have three guys at the awards show, Calder, Perfetti, he got injured, Morrissey for the Norris, Bonus, Coach of the Year, Hellbuck, Vezina. They may not have any there, although I think Hellbuck might get some votes, right? He could be a finalist.
Yeah, no, Hellbuck definitely could be. We'll see. I mean, potentially Bones could be, although, I mean, here's the thing about that swoon, that extended swoon in the second half of the season. I think that loss of momentum really cost a number of the Winnipeg Jets when it comes to some of the individual awards. It certainly cost the team when it came to, where they were, and obviously having to pull themselves off the mat late in the season and get into the playoffs in game number 81. But, team success is a big, big part of it. Certainly when you're thinking about something like Coach of the Year. But yeah, for Bones, we'll see. For Connor Hellebuyck, we will see. Cole Perfetti wasn't going to be part of the rookie conversation because of how much time that he missed. But I still thought that despite the swoon in the second half of the year, that Josh, would have been a worthy finalist for Norris Trophy consideration. I'd be shocked if he doesn't end up in the top 5, but not in the top 3. And, it comes down to Erik. I think this is just going to go to Erik Karlsson. I mean, I'm not sure that we really need to spend too much time on it. He had a historic offensive season. Still ended up at -6 on a team that stunk. But this is an individual award. Offense has always traditionally been maybe more heavily weighted as to defensive prowess and acumen. And that's why Erik Karlsson is the heavy favorite for the award. And that, in a lot of ways, is San Jose's Stanley Cup. We all remember how in Winnipeg, the way they celebrated when Karlsson got his 100th point in the season. That was basically the one goal that team had going down the stretch, was to get Erik a triple-digit number in the points section. And, credit to him for doing it. But I'll tell you what, with a game on the line, I'm not sure how many coaches would rather have Erik Karlsson than maybe some of the other guys that are up for the award or even in consideration that weren't finalists. Yeah,
the other finalists, Cale Makar. I see people in chat very upset. He only played 60 games. It's amazing you can get nominated for Norris Trophy, playing two?
Yeah, reputation. That's a reputation nomination.
Yeah. Hey, part of it's being on the ice. How about Josh? Played 78 games. Take that one. Cale Makar got you beat there. So we'll see. The awards, they're in Nashville this year, the Monday before the draft. So it's a busy week there in Music City.
Well, that's something that we're working on behind the scenes to make happen. So not sure whether we'll be there for the awards on the Monday, but certainly looking to hopefully take part in the festivities for what's going to be a big, big week for the Winnipeg Jets, both with selections and, depending on what happens, potentially some player moves, or at least moves leading into the draft that might change the Jets' situation when it comes to what's happening. What happens, when everyone hits the podium. We'll spend a lot more time on the Jets, and we'll get to the Stanley Cup playoffs in a minute, Reem, but we got to get to the big news out of Bomberland yesterday, just after we went off the air with our live show on YouTube. The Lucha is back. Sergio Castillo, the kicker that was so prominent in the Bombers' 2021 Grey Cup championship, who played last year with the Edmonton Elks, was surprisingly released by the Elks, not willing to take a pay cut, apparently. He was let go yesterday afternoon, and within about an hour, the Bombers were inking the guy that was so popular at the 2021 Grey Cup celebration in the poncho and the lucha mask to come back and kick field goals for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And I can't remember a signing, certainly a special team signing, that has been so, well, basically since the Bombers got Justin Medlock. It sort of felt like Medlock-like with how fired up Bomber fans were yesterday. Everyone knew that this team was stacked, was looking to make another run and get back to the Grey Cup and win it for the third time in 4 seasons. Kicking has been an issue. It was an issue in the Grey Cup. We talked about the amount of punters and kickers that were rumored to be in the mix to challenge Mark Leggio, but I think we can pretty much say that Castillo is going to be the guy now that he's got a contract with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and all systems go on training camp coming up in less than 2 weeks.
Yeah, it happened really quickly. He got released by Edmonton, and then I think Jeff posted like right after Hamilton said, the Bombers have actually been trying to trade for Castillo for a while, and let's see what happens here. And then the Bombers sent out the release that they had signed him. And I agree. I mean, remember the fanfare for Medlock? He was the top kicker, one of the top kickers like ever. And the Bombers signed him, and we saw what he meant to the team. Winning the first Grey Cup, and he's now retired from professional football. And Sergio, I mean, bringing everyone back. That's called running it back, Huss. And I joke with you, like now that they got Sergio back. Well, first of all, everyone in chat is going to stop asking us every day about the Bombers kicking situation because that came out pretty frequently. So I think that's been settled. But I think we got to start scheduling our trip now to the Grey Cup, right? Sorry.
Book your hotels right now.
And Troy Westwood did put out the Troy Westwood Memorial Kicker Rankings, which I saw on Twitter. Troy Westwood
DT. Those are DTs.
Sorry.
Troy Westwood.
Who did I say?
Memorial.
I said Troy put those rankings?
Yeah, Westwood. Yeah. Westwood was a little rattled that he is being referred to in anything that put it this way, that Memorial is being tagged to his name, especially for Westy, who is not even retired as a professional kicker, as we've discussed many times on this program.
Yeah, so he calculated, expected points based on the field goals, and he had Castillo as 4th best kicker in the league based on points above expected. And I think people were looking at his, his percentage, because his, convert percentage wasn't that much better than Leggio's during the year. But if you look, I mean, they trusted him. He had the longest average yards per attempt among all the kickers last year in these rankings that DT put together. So we know what Sergio is and how great he can be. And some would say he should have been the MVP of that Grey Cup, the second one that they won. So this is exciting, Huss. We don't have to. I'm sure the Bombers are pretty happy to have him under contract.
They are as well. And if you can, grab that picture that I tweeted out yesterday, because the second that I heard that Castillo was coming back, it immediately reminded me of that memorable party at IG Field, right? I think before we went into another bloody COVID lockdown, coincidentally. But as the Bombers celebrated that championship, and of course, there was Sergio Castillo, the Lucha Libre with the poncho, with the Lucha Libre wrestling mask, and rolling around with the championship belt. And as Joey Pank said in the comments, nobody celebrated that Grey Cup harder than Sergio. So, just another bit of great news for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers heading into training camp in an upcoming season where expectations are high, as the bar has been set so high by this organization over the last number of years.
Oh, yeah. So that's, I think, big signing for the Bombers. You don't get people so fired up about a kicker signing, but I posted that on Facebook, and it got a ton of likes and shares. There were some losses where they last year, what was there, 2 losses, 3? I forget what it was, but where, you were short on the field goals, and it can definitely cost you. So you need to have a reliable kicker, and Sergio, definitely that.
Well, listen, the Bombers ended up being, 16-4 on the season. And And I think you can definitely argue that with a little bit better from that position, they were 18-2 for sure. So anyways, hey, it's a tough business. That is a tough job with a ton of pressure packed into it. Castillo has done it in the NFL, in the XFL, in the Canadian Football League, and it was a guy that, the Bombers went out and acquired to fill what was a problem spot, and he came through for them. Huge ad for the blue and gold with Castillo coming back as announced yesterday. As far as everything going in the Stanley Cup Finals, Reem, the Leafs are on the ropes. I know there's a lot of people in chat that get triggered when, the Leafs are mentioned. But they're probably not as triggered right now. They're probably loving it. They probably want us to talk about it for the next half hour. Funny how things change when things don't go well for the old buds. But, what can you say about the Florida Panthers? Getting it done again last night, falling down 2-0 early. Bob gave up, 2 goals in the first 6 shots. And after that, it was Vezina Bob again. He was brilliant. It wasn't like the Leafs played terribly, but this Florida Panthers team is on a roll right now. They've got all the momentum now, won 5 straight games after falling down 3-1 in their series against Boston. And the Maple Leafs are in a serious predicament, losing the first 2 games at home, heading down to South Florida for games on the weekend.
Yeah, Leafs played a pretty good game. Can't beat Bob, and self-inflicted wounds, Hustler, which we talked a lot about with the Jets, but it was the Maple Leafs, Nylander making a giveaway in the neutral zone, Matthews as well, and Florida comes in and puts it in the back of the net, and Bob, I'm looking at Money Puck's numbers, 2.12 goals saved above expected, and Samsonov was minus 0.4 goals saved above expected. So goaltending has been the difference. Toronto they've got a lot of chances, but Bob is making save after save, and it was Samsonov saying that he doesn't give an F about how Bob has played. So I think the Maple Leafs, they're fired up. They're getting kind of frustrated, I think. But the other thing coming out of the game was Sam Bennett. I don't know what this guy is doing on the ice, if he thinks he's in a UFC match or a hockey game. The story, he headlocked?
No, and WWE no holds barred match. Anything goes.
Grabbed Matthew Nyes by the neck and just hauled him to the ground. And now Matthew Nyes is out for the series. They announced that today. He's going to miss games 3 and 4 and the rest of the series. And then he cross-checked.
Is it rest of the series as well? I heard games 3 and 4. I just thought you were assuming that the rest of the series was only going to have 2 more games.
Sheldon Keefe said he's unlikely to return for the series. Maybe Sheldon Keefe also thinking it's only going 3 and 4 games. But, and then he cross-checked Michael Bunting, and player safety putting out today that he got fined the maximum allowable by the CBA, Sam Bennett, $5,000 fine for the cross-check.
What a hit. What a hit in the pocketbook.
They didn't talk about the takedown of Matthew Nyes where he's injured and now he has to miss. I don't know if that hearing is coming out later or what, but I did remember Josh Morrissey got suspended for a game for cross-checking Eric Stahl in the neck. I don't know why Sam Bennett...
And didn't you tweet that out earlier today? The Morrissey cross-check was a 5 or a 6 compared to an 8 or a 9 for Bennett.
Yes.
The Bennett one was far more violent, and he got the guy down. He was down on the ground, and once he realized that the ref's arm was up, figured he was going to get his 2 minutes, and then plowed another cross-check into his back, sending it down. The stuff that they let go is... It boggles the mind at times. And then this business with the takedown, and it was sort of like a modified choke slam at the end with the way that he kind of drove him into the ground. And Matthew Tkachuk was asked if he thought that Bennett would be hearing from player safety about that incident, and Tkachuk laughed and said no, and he was right. They're going to send an invoice their way. There's just no consistency on that. As I say, that cross-check that Bennett did yesterday was way worse than the one that Morrissey did on Eric Stahl back in that Minnesota series a few years back. But again, there's no rhyme nor reason other than the Jets usually end up on the wrong side of it when it has to do with one of their players or something that's happened to one of their players. See Hartman Ryan from the Minnesota Wild.
Yeah, I'm watching the replay. Bennett cross-checks bunting in the back of the neck and then gets him on the back when he's down. And the takedown of Nye, like, I don't know why these guys aren't going and doing MMA moves all the time, because nothing's going to happen to you. Just go take a guy out and injure him. Like, why even try to play hockey, Hustler?
Yeah, Rook of the Year in chat. You know what? It was a rock bottom. That's the best way to describe it. That was a perfect facsimile. It
was a rock bottom
of the rock. It
was
rocks.
Yes, I agree. Gave him a rock bottom, 100%. It's gross. You think that since the NHL loves Toronto and wants the Leafs to win, they would have given him a big suspension because it was on. Like, aren't Leafs fans as angry as Habs fans were for the Scheifele hit on Jake Evans? That's why I'm kind of confused, Hustler.
They're certainly hot online right now. Thinks that everyone's out to get them right now. I guess that's part of being a fan. You're never really too pleased with your own personal treatment. You think your team's treated poorly, and others are not as soft or softly. But I kind of get the anger coming out of the Leafs nations today, considering what happened, especially with them being down 2-0. Maybe, just maybe, Paul Maurice's mind games are working with NHL player safety and the referees right now. You go. For podcast listeners, Remo's doing the Paul Maurice.
I think it was 3-1 yesterday. It was 3-1.
Reminding the referees what the penalties have been. Listen, there's a lot of love for Maurice right now in the chat. I see, a number of folks saying, they're cheering for him and go Pomo. And listen, I got a lot of time for it. I mean, do I think that maybe Maurice's time here was too long? Yeah, but I guess he would agree as well because of the way that he left, and that maybe isn't necessarily on him. But he was an incredibly entertaining guy to have here, and I think did a lot of great things for the Winnipeg Jets. It didn't end in a great way, but now that there's been a little bit of time, and I think we see what Maurice is doing right now, considering the challenges he had this season. I mean, there was a lot of talk about Maurice getting fired. What an abject failure that coaching change was. That team was going to miss the playoffs. They found a way to get in right at the end, but now they're playing their best hockey of the year. Bob has remembered that he's a guy that, won a couple Vezina trophies and is playing like it, and they're getting the wins. But I will say this, and I we all remember Maurice and his time, at the podium here in Winnipeg. There is not a coach in the league that loves the camera and loves the microphone more than Paul Maurice when things are going well. When things are not going well, probably doesn't have as much time for it. But right now, he is living his best life. Up 2-0 with 2 wins in Toronto against a team that he used to coach and got fired from. It's the center of the hockey universe. All the lights are on these games, and Maurice, in a lot of ways, is having the last laugh. And, we always hear how much coaches hate the in-game interviews on the bench. Not Paul Maurice. I watched the game on the TBS feed last night, and I'm not sure I've ever seen someone have more fun with an in-game interview than Maurice did. It was with Darren Pang. He had plenty of time for him. He finished it up with a big smile on his face and putting his arm around her and around Darren. And I just had to laugh because he is a guy that, has done wonders in the media, and I think tries to utilize and weaponize the media at times. And Remo, it's pretty obvious that he's loving every second of this and is maxing out on Pomo camera time right now as his Florida Panthers have a 2-0 lead against the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, I've seen some mixed reaction here in the chat. Some people want to cheer for Pomo. They love. I'm thinking, we're pretty close to him, like possibly lifting the Stanley Cup, and I'm here for that. And then some people in chat are like, he kind of helped create this culture that the Winnipeg Jets that haven't been able to get past the first round. So I think, and then people think, hey, he also did walk out on the Jets, but maybe you can see why after Rick Bowness's outburst after Game 5. But he was the coach here for a long time. I think you're going to have that attachment to him. So yeah, I think it'd be great to see him lift the Stanley Cup with Florida. I don't know if it's going to happen, but they're up 2-0 in the second round. It's pretty great. They had a lot of injuries. Sorry, they had a lot of injuries at the beginning of the year. Barkov out for a while, and we kind of had some laughs at his post-game press conferences, playing the hits, as we like to say, but it's going well for them. Matthew Tkachuk's making an impact. We saw Sam Bennett yesterday, and of course, I mean, some people say, show me a good coach, and I'll show you a good goaltender, and Sergei Bobrovsky is playing lights out here the last couple of games.
You know, Jeff Bose in chat, Maurice is a very smart guy with a big ego, but it's fun to watch. I think that is pretty. Listen, he's a guy, he's a smart guy. He'll come in and let everyone know in as many ways that he's the smartest guy in the room. And I mean, we could go through the best and the greatest hits of Maurice here. I mean, with some of the most memorable press conferences that we've ever had. Jeff, obviously remembering earlier the infamous I can make you cry in there. Maybe nothing quite to the extent that we got from Bones, the unvarnished honesty. I don't think Maurice was very honest at times. But listen, he was entertaining, and listen, it was here for a long, long time. Probably, far longer than most NHL coaches stay, and he himself thought that it was overdue to leave and left in an unfortunate way. But I think now that there has been some time for a lot of people, you move on, you think of the positives of what Maurice did while he was here, and hey, this is the guy that's worked his entire life as an NHL head coach, has not won the cup right now, and seemingly has a pretty good chance to do it based on what we've seen so far in the Stanley Cup Playoffs. The Panthers up 2-0 heading home. They are in a great spot right now. The Kraken weren't as lucky though, Remo. Seattle, had an opportunity to do the same thing, and that would be head back to their home rink up 2-0. But it was the Dallas Stars that got it done last night with a 4-2 victory. Joe Pavelski scoring again, 5 goals in 2 games right now in the series. Tyler Seguin putting it away in the third period, and we got a series now as expected. I really did think that Dallas was going to bounce back. I wasn't sure about last night's game between the Leafs and Panthers, but Dallas in a good spot right now, and they'll need to continue the way they played last night when they get to the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, Jake Ottinger on the money. That was a very un-Dallas-like game there. That was a 4-4.
Giving up 3 goals in a minute.
Yeah, that's too much. So Stars, out shooting the Kraken. They're getting the goaltending. Wyatt Johnson opening the scoring. I really like their depth. Dadonov as well. It helps when you have your third line guys contributing. And as you said, Joe Pavelski's back and doing what he does, put pucks in the net from in tight. So shout out to the Dallas Stars. I think, man, watch out for Dallas. I think they're pretty equipped here to possibly win, and that's not something I would have said before the playoffs. It definitely helps now that Colorado's out, and we'll see what happens with Vegas and Edmonton in Game 2 before we start jumping to more conclusions.
Yeah, just one game tonight. Devils and Carolina Hurricanes. Canes up 1-0 in that series. All right, we'll talk more about this, the playoffs, and of course the Jets with Ken Wiebe coming up. But Josh Morrissey joining us in just a minute. Before we get to that, do have to remind you that we got a big day coming up on Sunday over at the newest Modern Man Barbershops on Pembina Highway. Modern Man, with 8 locations in Winnipeg, is hosting a grand opening event Sunday, May 7th at the new Pembina location just by Bishop Grandin from 12 to 5 p.m. Receive a haircut for $9 with proceeds to Cancer Care Manitoba Foundation. And the first 100 people will get free lunch from the Jeepney food truck. As you can see, for those of you looking on YouTube, I'm in desperate need of a little helmet reduction, and I'm going to head over there in the first hour for sure and hang out, and I think get a cut as well. If you want more information on it, go to @ModernMan Barbershops for more info, and you can book your look online for any of the Modern Mans at modernmanbarber.com. We got some beautiful weather right now. Everyone's thinking of summer. Why don't you make 2023 the year you take the plunge? Visit aqua-tech.ca to design your own custom pool. The Aquatech team can provide on-the-spot pricing from designers as well as financing options that suit you. And whole home renovations start with Aquatech. Aquatech is ready to make your reno dreams a reality. Learn more about design, pricing, and financing options at aqua-tech.ca. And while we get ready for summer, our friends at Manitoba Battery are celebrating their 10th birthday with great sales for everyone getting ready for the new seasons. This time they're blowing out golf cart batteries. Whether you're using your cart to check out our beautiful Manitoba courses or rip around from friend to friend at your summer getaway. 6-volt golf cart batteries are now $167. 8-volt golf cart batteries are $177. Those prices include free delivery anywhere within the city limits. And when you return your cores to Manitoba Battery, you'll receive another $17.50 off what's already the lowest price in Manitoba for golf cart batteries. Get your batteries now so you can be ready for May long and summer fun. The sale is on right now until May 6th. For more information, go to manitobabattery.com. And big cheers to our friends at Canadian Club. Big weekend coming up. Maybe you're going to pop by your local Manitoba liquor marts on a Friday evening. Well, make sure to check out Canada's favorite Canadian whiskey, Canadian Club. And if you haven't tried it already, check out the Canadian Club and Ginger Ale pre-mixed cocktails, now available in 473 milliliter cans, not just at liquor marts, but also at beer vendors. And we're counting down the days till we're going to enjoy a few CC and Gingers at IG Field watching the blue and gold. All right. Coming up right now, a very special guest, Jet defenseman Josh Morrissey, of course, who is a big part of our Unsung Hero program with our friends at Wallace & Wallace. Josh joins us now to recap the season, look ahead to the offseason, as well as allow us to thank him for participating in the Unsung Hero program.
Josh, thanks so much for doing this. How are you and how are you feeling?
Thanks for having me, of course. Feeling better. Obviously, it's a disappointing end to the season for myself personally and the team, but I'm just rehabbing now and trying to do what I can to get back to 100%, which I have no doubt in my mind I will soon, and get back to training and be ready to try to even improve next year.
Well, I mean, without getting too much into it as far as the injury, but I do wonder, I mean, when something like this happens right at the end of the year, how much is that, or does it all change training and your plan for your routine going through the summer to get ready for next season?
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, it won't probably change too much with the injury. My timeline, as I said, kind of my press conference at the end of the year was sort of 4 to 6 weeks. So, that would have had me maybe back for the conference finals if we were pushing it. So usually after the season, I mean, depending on how far we go or whatever, I'll take usually a couple weeks off of most things, doing anything. So I guess the change is I'm rehabbing in that time a little bit. And then usually the next sort of 3-4 weeks are just, trying to get the body back to sort of neutral, if you will, and get healthy. And, there's a lot of wear and tear during the year. So just, whether that's, some physio stuff or nutrition, or just trying to get back to kind of a clean slate before I start getting into the real training again. So it really won't change too much, but just a little bit more rehabbing. And from what I've been told and the nature of my injury, I'll be basically good to go when I start training. So it's unfortunate in the sense that it happened when it did and then wasn't able to play in the playoffs. That was obviously crushing for me, but from a, I guess, recovery standpoint and off-season standpoint, it won't affect that too much.
Josh, looking back at the season overall from a personal standpoint, I mean, this was a career year. 16 goals, 60 assists, 76 points. I know it was so disappointing to get knocked out of the series and have the team knocked out in the first round, but I'm not sure. We're a little bit more removed from it. I mean, have you been able to look back and kind of take it all in about, the huge step that you made as a top defender in the National Hockey League last year?
I appreciate that. First of all, it's been kind of a quick ending since the year finished, so I haven't had a ton of time to, I guess, reflect on the season. Obviously, I was really excited about the steps that I took in my game and the opportunity that I was given this year. I mean, I think that I was able to well, first of all, I worked hard last off season, and it was nice to see a lot of those things kind of come to fruition in the regular season for me. But I think there's a lot of things that on my mind I can improve on, and that's what excites me about the game in general. What's always kind of pushed me forward, and definitely what is exciting for me right now is that I feel there's a bunch of things that I can get better at and work on offensively, defensively. I think I can still work on some things physically to just improve my performance as well. So that's the exciting part for me. I haven't had too much time to reflect, but definitely individually happy about the growth I took in my game. And as I've been saying all year, the stats and the points and stuff like that are function of playing with great players and being given opportunities to be in situations that produce and all that stuff. So it's nice to have those, I guess, improvements in my game, but wouldn't happen without team and my teammates and the opportunity. So it was a great year overall, and want to continue to build off that.
We all remember, Bones talking about the conversation that he had with you afterwards and saying how you were such a focus when he was on the other side, and that, he believes that you can be, one of the top defensemen in the league, and that's certainly that prophecy came through. I mean, whether it was coaching or particular teammates, was there any real key influence on you that helped you, or was there just a certain point in time where you started feeling like you were playing at a much different level that translated, certainly offensively, into a season that doubled your previous point total as an NHLer?
Yeah, I think I always felt that I had more levels to get to, just as I do now. And that might not necessarily be just related to points in the future. Obviously, I want to continue to be a real threat offensively, but there's things all over the ice I think I can improve on, and just in all areas of the game. So I think last year, Bones challenged me sort of in off season, as you mentioned, and I think it pushed me. Like I said, I had a long off season last year without the playoffs, unfortunately, but I really skated earlier than I sort of ever had before. Skated a ton with Scheif in the summer here, and so I think that really helped. But there was kind of a couple games into the season where Bones and Arnie kind of pulled me aside and showed me a couple clips where I made a fine play. It was not a bad play by any means, but they just said, we think you can do more here and with your skating or on those particular plays, and we want you to do that. So I guess I had sort of never had that encouragement to sort of try to do more in the game. That's not really my nature. I think it's more to try to make the smart play. So I think that pushed me forward, and then after that I guess you have some success and your confidence starts to grow. But and I've always felt this way, and say going back in my media interviews and stuff like that through my entire career, I've always just tried to work on my game, tried to get better, and it was nice to see that happen this year. I worked with Adam Moats in the off season as well, and I think for a few years that's really helped my game as well.
Josh Morrissey, the Winnipeg Jets, with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. From a team perspective, Josh, I think if you said to most fans at the start of the season that what the record would be in making the playoffs, certainly would have taken it considering last year. There were some real highs. There was a great start. There was also some lows in the second half of the season. When you look back, now that you're a little bit removed from the season and obviously the playoffs, but how will you look back at last season for the Winnipeg Jets?
Well, I think there was a lot of growth. I mean, we were sitting here a year ago, missing the playoffs. Obviously, there was a lot of question marks about our team, and I felt that although we had our ups and downs and struggled to kind of string a lot of it together in the second half this year, I think if we were the same team a year prior, we probably wouldn't have found a way to overcome some of those hurdles and get into the playoffs. It wasn't easy when, things started to slide, and, specifically, our game wasn't where it needed to be. There were some tough moments. That's part of playing in the NHL, and specifically in Canada, the pressure that comes when, there's expectation around your team and all of a sudden you're not meeting it. And the expectation was, because we had such a great first half, so it was valid, it was there. Everyone knew what type of, product we could put on the ice. And when that wasn't happening, like I said, it's tough in any market, but certainly in Canada, with our passionate fans, more media coverage, everything else, and the pressure we put on ourselves. So I think for us to sort of continue to stay in it and find a way to overcome that and get into the playoffs and win some key games, and it was I think a step of growth for us. Certainly, I view it as a journey. That's not where we want to be, right now, talking in early May, but there was a lot of positives, and but I know we have certainly many more levels to get to, and that's an exciting thing for me.
Josh, last weekend, of course, coming out, the unfortunate end of the season in game number 5, of which you weren't in the lineup for. A lot was made of, what Rick had to say after the game in the media. But and then obviously what we heard from the players on Saturday. As one of the players and as one of the leaders, I'm interested. How would you categorize the exit meeting? I mean, when you're sitting down, you go for it. I mean, certainly from hearing Chevy yesterday, he said it was a very different tone this year as opposed to last year. I mean, just interested in your perspective on, maybe what fans would be interested to hear about wrapping up the season and what goes on when you're sitting down with the GM and the coaching staff.
Yeah, I think obviously a lot of those conversations are, private in between, management, organization, and players. But I would agree that, as I said in my last answer, I think we really grew a lot as a group this year. I think that, a lot of the things that last year we obviously missed the playoffs, we struggled, we're struggling to find our sort of, our identity. And I think this year, as our locker room, I feel like it's never been in a better place. And, collectively as a group, I think a lot of things that we wanted to work on and change and whatnot have really come to fruition. So I think that's the positive side. The negative side, or I don't even want to say negative, but the room for improvement obviously is, for myself as someone who's been around and, I signed in Winnipeg for another 5 years. I mean, I want to have a chance to win a cup. That's why I play the game, and certainly, I feel like I'm in the prime of my career now, and I want to go after it. I want a chance to win, and I believe in our group. So, you want to figure out how we can get, over those hurdles and get to the next step or the next level and become a team that, has a chance to win. I felt we did this year. Obviously some unfortunate injuries and tough luck in the playoffs, but like I said, that's my biggest goal, and I know that's the goal of the organization. So, it's about having those conversations to try to figure out what we need to improve on and work on to get there.
Josh, I mean, obviously a lot was made of, Bones sort of erupting after game number 5. We heard quite a few interesting comments from players, and a lot of people have made this out to be, that there are huge, gulfs to cross or, to bring back. I'm just, as a leader of this team, potentially the next captain of the club, what's the most important thing for this team to do kind of over the off season or coming into training camp next year to move on from that? And if anything, hopefully use that as something that can make the club better and more resilient.
Yeah, I think first of all, it's a emotional game, and it's emotions are running high after after every game, wins or losses, but certainly, losing and having the season be over. So, I understand that. I'm an emotional guy. I play with emotion, and sometimes it gets the best of me. So, to me, Bones has addressed a lot of us, and I'm sure he's spoken to every player of the team. Those things are conversations for guys to have with him, and for, I guess, him to have with the players as well. And, obviously something like that happens, it gets, a lot of coverage in the media and in the press. And, I think that's just part of it. But, for us, I don't think that's going to be a factor for us moving forward as a team or anything like that. It's the end of the season. I'm looking forward already to next year, and how we can improve as a group, how I can improve as a player, and how our team can take the next step. So, I think a lot was made of it, and personally, like I said, Bones is a great communicator, and I'm sure those things, if they need to be, conversations will be had.
The other reason why we wanted to have you on today, Josh, was to personally thank you for being involved in our Unsung Hero program, along with our friends at Wallace & Wallace, great sponsors, and of course, the Dream Factory. And a perfect way to wrap things up. First of all, congratulating our Unsung Heroes, and thanks to all the Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners that nominated people in the community doing great volunteer and charity work. We had so many great nominations, and again, a quick shout out to our Unsung Heroes, Paulette and Peter Cole, Mark Hache, Pam Bartkowski, Derek Helgeson, Tony Valeri, and Dana Ray. And part of the program was that Wallace & Wallace was making a $500 donation for each of our nominators from Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners to the Dream Factory, and of course, an incredible generous matching by you and your wife Margot, Josh. And we figured to kind of wrap this up, we'd also bring in Andrew Cussy from the Dream Factory. And Andrew, great to have you with us. And obviously, it's been great to work with you and Wallace & Wallace through. And I know you've had the pleasure of working with Josh for a long time on things like this, but also making impactful memories and moments for young people in the community through Dream Factory events.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much for having me today, but for this entire promotion, to you, to Josh and Margot, to our friends at Wallace & Wallace. I can truly say that it means more to us now than it ever has. The Dream Factory, for those who don't know, we're a Manitoba-based organization that makes dreams come true for kids in our province that are battling life-threatening illnesses. Every dollar that we raise stays in our province, and it really is simple in that we meet with kids, we ask them what their biggest dream is, and really whatever they say, we do our best to get out there and make it come true. So we're coming off our biggest kind of first half of a year in the organization's history. Demand for dreams come true has never been higher. So to have the support from you, from the listeners, from Wallace & Wallace, and from Josh and Margot, it means the world to us.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are familiar with the incredible work that you guys do in the community. They might not be entirely familiar with everything Josh does behind the scenes. And, Josh, first of all, I know our Unsung Heroes are going to be incredibly proud wearing those autographed Morrissey jerseys, and we can't thank you enough for that. But also just to be involved in this. And we figured this was a great time, with Andrew here, to first of all, thank you, but also talk a little bit about your experiences with the Dream Factory. And I was reading through some of the experiences you've done with the kids. And I mean, that Caden who came in and practiced and then went to the game, and you see, he wanted a goal and you scored the OT winner. I imagine, there are ups and downs, and we talked to some of those, and that goes with professional sports. But I imagine this is a great way to, obviously give back, but also maybe keep grounded through the highs and lows of an NHL season.
For sure. It's been just an absolute pleasure to work with the Dream Factory. And selfishly, I honestly feel like I've gotten more out of it personally than what I've been able to provide. There's nothing else quite like it than when you see, some of these kids and their families, and when they're able to have a dream come true, or, meet their favorite player, or in some cases, like you mentioned, skate with the Jets, or things like that are just incredible. And I mean, it makes you so thankful, for the opportunity to play in the NHL, and I get to live my dream. And it's pretty cool. I mean, I answered in one of the questions earlier, how passionate our fans and the community of Winnipeg is, and what it's like playing in Canada. There's more spotlight and pressure and some things like that, but there's also, I think, some amazing things like, the ability to make such a difference in the community, and the impact that has, and it's something that I've always really enjoyed about playing in Winnipeg and Canada, and the fact that it really matters. And so, it's funny because, some kids, couldn't care less about hockey, and it's pretty awesome to me. To them, I'm just another guy, and it's pretty funny sometimes, but it's just incredible. And the stories of what some of these families go through, and what these kids go through, or siblings, it sometimes it's unfathomable, and it's certainly not fair. So for to be a part of the Dream Factory, and see them on their brightest day having a chance to live a dream, and get to go to Disney World, or all of those crazy amazing things, there couldn't be a more deserving group of people, kids, families, to receive those dreams. So the more that I guess we can raise, and the Dream Factory can make happen, the better. It's just it's one of the most amazing things to witness, that's for sure.
And I imagine, I mean, we talk about the attention and the stress, the pressure of playing professional hockey. I imagine, some of these visits that you go on, meeting with kids and what they're dealing with, at hospitals and, at home, probably puts a lot of the highs and lows into perspective of what you're doing for a living, and the ups and downs of the work life that you have.
Oh, for sure. I mean, perspective is everything. And like you said, I mean, you see what some of the kids go through on a day-to-day basis, what they've been through. Some of the stories, I mean, it's just, it's heartbreaking and emotional, and inspiring all at the same time. And so, also the families, I mean, the financial strain, and I can't imagine, I don't have kids, but the emotional challenge that must be to just see your kids go through some of these things. So, like I said, you have a bad game, a good game, anything else, anytime I get to see the kids. And I think that's really my favorite part. I've talked to Andrew about it a ton. The more that the chances to meet the kids and see the kids and interact with them, it warms your heart, and it's the greatest energy lift you could possibly have. So it's pretty awesome.
Well, and Andrew, I mean, from your perspective with the Dream Factory, obviously, I'm sure you feel fortunate to have people like Josh that are willing to, lend their name, and most importantly, their time to events like this, sponsors like Wallace & Wallace, and the people of Manitoba that continue to support Dream Factory and make these sort of things happen. I mean, maybe just touch on that quickly, and let people know if they want more information on maybe some of the stories that you guys have up on the website, or, for instance, athletes like Josh, the impact that they've had, and obviously, bottom line, how people can help out if they'd like to.
Yeah, I think the first thing to say is just, it's one thing to have a spokesperson or an ambassador, but for us at the Dream Factory, Josh is truly a part of our team, and we're regularly in communication to say, what can we do? How can we create experiences for the kids? And it's never a one-time experience. Like Josh mentioned, he's been with us for so many years. There's kids that he's got to see grow up and beat their battle with cancer, and to see them doing well, and for those kids to kind of get to see Josh year over year and have him remember them and ask how they're doing. For kids who are hockey fans, there's nothing cooler than that. And then for folks who are interested in learning more about the Dream Factory and getting involved, there's so many things that we have going on out in community, whether it's hosting a fundraiser, getting involved as a volunteer, All of that information is available on our website, www.thedreamfactory.ca. But I'd encourage anyone listening just to reach out to me directly, shoot me a message if you want to get involved, and I'd love to help make that happen, because right now with the demand that we have, there's lots of kids in need of a dream come true, and we're happy to bring as many members of our community on that journey with us as we can.
Well, I can tell you, I mean, on behalf of myself and Michael for Winnipeg Sports Talk, we've been so fortunate to have the support of Wallace & Wallace to make this happen, to work with you. And obviously, Josh, we really appreciate you, come joining us to talk a little hockey as well, but also being a part of this all season long. It's been a big success. We hope to continue it into next season, and it wouldn't have happened without your support. So congratulations on a great season, but a sincere thank you for helping us make this happen for the Dream Factory.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Always great to chat, and certainly, again, can't thank yourself enough, and also Wallace & Wallace and the Dream Factory and everyone for coordinating and making it happen, and the listeners' support and everyone who was nominated. We're clearly doing great things, and the winners, congratulations, and again, just thank you for doing what you do in the city of Winnipeg, and hopefully we can do it again next year.
Josh, be well. Good luck with the rehab. Have a great off season. Can't wait to see you and your teammates back here in the Peg to get after it next September. And Andrew, continue success with the Dream Factory. Let us know if there's anything else, any way we can help. And a big thank you to the great folks over at Wallace & Wallace for the Unsung Hero program with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
All right, man, that was awesome. Big thanks to Josh Morrissey, obviously, for his assistance in that program all year long. And a huge thanks to Wallace & Wallace for their continued support of Winnipeg Sports Talk and the Unsung Hero program. And as I said, check out the Dream Factory. There's some really, really neat stories of making incredible moments for kids that that need it. And Josh has been a huge part, as you just heard. Hey, just before we bring in Weber, it's barbecue season here, folks, and you need to head down to see our friends at Vita Health Fresh Market with great prices on natural and organic supplements, beauty products, groceries, Winnipeg's largest assortment of local products as well. And you can stock up on some delicious Vita Market grass-fed bison and beef steaks for the queue. And a perfect thing to help you digest that red meat, Health First Prime Zyme digestive enzymes. Symptoms like heartburn, gas, bloating, abdominal pain after meals may be signs that you're not digesting food well. Health First Prime Zyme can help supplement enzyme levels to help break down proteins, carbohydrates, fats, lactose, and reduce digestive discomfort. That way you can enjoy that delicious food you're cooking. And if you can't make it down to any of the 7 Vita Health stores, visit their website to buy online with local delivery options. Vita Health Fresh Market, empowering people to lead healthy lives. 7 Winnipeg locations and online at myvita.ca. How's the closet looking, folks? If you need to up your menswear game heading into spring and summer, you need to head down to F Apparel. Custom suits beginning at $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories. In a wedding party this summer, talk to Andrew and the gang about getting the whole wedding party hooked up at F. You get 15% off all your suits for everybody in the wedding party. And if you have a 2023 high school grad, get the young man ready for his big day and moving on to the next chapter of his life with a new suit. And F Apparel will throw in a free custom shirt and tie valued at around $150. F Apparel is at 190 Smith Street downtown. You can make an appointment online at F, that's EPHapparel.com. And with this gorgeous weather we've been having, it is time to get back to Nick and Nicky DQ if you haven't been there in a while. Obviously, they've got those great the stack burgers, chicken fingers, and more. Incredible ice cream treats, and the world-famous Blizzard and the new summer Blizzard flavors are out. Check them out for yourself with your crew this weekend. DQ Northgate, DQ Polo Park, DQ St. Anne's, and the DQ in Niverville. Big thanks to Nick and Nicky for their great support of WST. All right, let's get back to this Jets offseason. And as I said, when we talked to Ken last, it was from Vegas going into Game 5. Needless to say, that feels like about a month ago. But Wiebe joins us now, coming off a great end of the season for Kenny and Rennie. Check out the season-ending program if you missed it. Wiebe, what's good, man? How are you?
Happy Friday, Huss. Great to be with you. Beautiful day in the neighborhood. Certainly does feel like quite a long time. I don't think we'll have any blasts in the background here from the good folks getting ready for Game 5 in Las Vegas. If there are any sounds of that nature, please send help over my way in the South End. Interesting times on the playoff front, and yeah, thanks for plugging the show, Huss. It was one of the, as you can imagine, one of the largest viewing audiences of the year. Still getting quite a few hits on that after having Sammy the Scarf Cosentino join us for the year-ender after what was a bit of a, let's just say, strange ending to the campaign with the words from the general manager, certainly causing a lot of pushback online. Let's go with that, Huss. In the spirit of the season, let's go with the word pushback for the 1 millionth time over the last 8.5 days here.
Hey, shout out to Ryan Peugeot, by the way. Welcome to the WST team. Thanks for being a supporter. Yeah, how's Rennie doing? Is he calmed down a little bit from from the end of the season?
Well, yes, the divorce lawyer was on line one, but we definitely smoothed some things over. But definitely pretty fired up. Sean's excited. He's back on reporter duty this round for those folks who haven't been tuning in to that Vegas Golden Knights and Edmonton Oilers series. He is enjoying being still part of the Stanley Cup playoffs. As you know, in our profession, you're always happy to get another assignment, even when it doesn't involve the team that you're covering primarily. Spoke with him earlier today. So yeah, no, things are good. And Huss, and we're excited. We got the year-end party coming up at TransCanada Brewing. We're excited to have
when
you
is
and
that
some
again?
of May 16th over at TransCanada on Kenniston there, 1290 Kenniston. And yes, for some folk, we've had a waiting list for quite a while here, but from talking with Sean earlier today, Huss, there are a few more tickets have opened up. Not a wide variety pack, but for folks who thought it was completely sold out and maybe were not thinking they could make it, if you send Sean or myself a DM, we might be able to sort some things out here in the time coming up to the 16th. But yeah, we're excited to have you down there joining us. Should be a fun evening on
Absolutely.
the Tuesday, 6 to 11ish. So should be fun.
Very much looking forward to that and getting together with the gang. Just before you get to the Jets, has the Weeb's World Manitoba Golf Tour started yet?
Huss, if I'd been asked, had $1 for every time I've been asked that in the last, let's say, 2.5 weeks, I'd be planning for a trip to Pebble right now. But there have been no official swings taken on the Manitoba portion of the tour. Huss, I just completed one of the most grueling in our business, one of the most grueling processes, and this is the world's largest violin playing here. I just spent about 4.5 hours working on my expenses, Huss. It is the least enjoyable part of the job. But when that amount starts to get to the point after 4 or 5 road trips, it is definitely time to get that in. And I think the good folks at accounting at head office at Sportsnet will be thrilled by the time this weekend is over once those get processed. And we will officially be starting the tour at the latest on next Tuesday, I think. So excited to get out with you, Huss. I know Breezy has opened, I think, some rave reviews here coming out of the gates with how things wintered. So, and I know they got a couple of fun projects on the go as well there. So can't wait to bang it around with you. But yes, the tour will be starting soon. A couple more loose ends to sort out. I've got a column coming up on Tuesday, and then the mailbag that is open, it will drop on Thursday, I believe. So for those folks, we know Huss, the folks in the chat room have a lot of questions they want answers to. Fire them my way, either via DM or email. All those things are available at my Twitter handle. And yes, there are lots of interesting ones, lots of angst being shared, but there is still room in the mailbag, and that story will run next Thursday. So yeah, exciting times all around. And yeah, I don't think we'll be getting a ton of answers in the next week or two, but it's only, as I pointed out in my last column, Huss, it's now fewer than 8 weeks until the draft in Nashville. So this also, we will be bringing some things to a head in the next, let's just say, 4 to 6 weeks probably on some of those big picture questions that a lot of people want answered.
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny you mentioned that, end of the year, I mean, you're banging out, doing all the things you have to do at the end of the season, moving on taking care, wrapping up loose ends, and now moving on to the next stage. I mean, I don't know whether we really need to go back over the last week, the Mount Bones erupting after the game and everything that happened on the weekend with what we heard from the players and what we did or really didn't hear from Kevin Cheveldayoff on the weekend. But here we are going forward, Ken. And as I said when it came to Chevy, he wasn't going to say, this guy's gone, this guy's here. I mean, I thought it was a missed opportunity maybe to give fans a little bit of a bone of changes that I think are obviously have to be made in some ways. I mean, even if they don't want to, just with the contracts. But let me ask you this. I mean, what is the aftermath of the entire last week for the team? I don't know if we maybe want to get to the organization overall, because there are implications outside of the hockey operation, but as it pertains to the decisions the Winnipeg Jets need to make on their roster for next season, many of them, as you mentioned, which I would imagine might take place in the next 2 months before the draft. How do you see what happened on the weekend and at the end of the season with Game 5 affecting the decisions and the actions of the club when it comes to hockey ops?
Yeah, it's a great question, Huss. If I had the answer, I'd probably be working in a different department. But I do still have some thoughts on the matter, as you know, which is why I'm very humbled that you have asked me. When it comes to the words spoken, I know that both barrels were out with many folks who write columns and have airwaves to discuss, and in a lot of ways, rightfully so. I do agree with you that transparency would have been, Kevin Cheveldayoff's friend, I believe, in the last week or so. Just in terms of, you're right, Huss, and you've said it throughout the course of the week, and I'm not going to, reiterate all those things, but just a little bit of glimmer of what the direction might be. Yes, we're going to try to sign some of these people, but I think the thing that kind of got people up in arms the most, Huss, was that there was no kind of admission that maybe it was time to make some changes, whether that's your choice or the player's choice. Some changes are required to this roster, even if all 4 wanted to come back, or all 7 if you want to include Niederreiter, Dylan, and Dylan DeMello. But the fact that there wasn't even a simple answer when it came to the direction of rebuild. I mean, Darren Dreger has reported that there's no appetite for a rebuild. Paul Edmonds has had it in one of his reports, and certainly it's a belief that I share. Not because anyone from True North told me, but because of what we have witnessed in this market over the course of the last 12 months. To me, Huss, that would have been that's a backdoor tap in. If you're not going to be rebuilding and you're trying to, and Evan was asked directly about hope, Huss. I mean, if you're trying to give people who don't want to rebuild hope, then you say this team is not going to rebuild. Now, I understand you want to leave the door open to a degree in case you're forced to, but at the same time, I just felt that the fact that Kevin kind of left the door open to running it back, Huss, I would say that was the one of the issues for people. People don't want it run back, right? Isn't that part of the biggest issue here? This group, yes, great that they get along again. Awesome. But they haven't accomplished what they are set out to accomplish. And if that's the case, I'm not saying burn it down. Of course not. There are a lot of good pieces for the Jets to build around here. But to leave the door open to run it back, I think was something that kind of got people a little bit up in arms and rose the temperature, if you will, Huss, to borrow a playoff term. Because quite frankly, I don't think there is any appetite for this fan base to run it back again. Whether it's not any one of those players specifically, but I think to expect different results from the same group would be an error in judgment. So, and I can't imagine that Kevin Cheveldayoff actually feels that way. And yes, we understand he likes to keep his cards close to the vest, and that's what he did. But I just think there needed to be a concession that some other things would be required in terms of upgrading the roster rather than leaving the door open for the status quo to return.
Yeah, I'm with you. And again, talk is cheap. Does it, as results, I said, right? It was an opportunity to do something to at least give people some, maybe some excitement, some hope of things that are happening. But I think a lot of that stuff is going to happen anyway. And it's not like this is going to be a quiet summer around the Winnipeg Jets. Any other main takeaways from what you heard? I mean, obviously we heard some of the pushback. I mean, to me, it really started with Blake Wheeler, who had some of the most outspoken criticism, if you will, about what Rick Bowness had to say. The other thing that was really interesting from Connor Hellebuyck, and again, you know me, I'm a big advocate of Hellebuyck. I think he's the franchise player. I personally would like to see them do everything to keep him around. I sort of took, what he had to say as maybe a precursor that would not be happening. I think my optimism level went down a little bit. But the most interesting comment I found was also from Hellebuyck, and I don't think that's surprising, was him talking about, the quality of players on the team and in the room. But he was the one that admitted that maybe the mix just wasn't right. What did you take out of that, whether it was those two players or anyone else that maybe helped you write that excellent column coming out of that I think really nailed a lot of what was not a great weekend for the Winnipeg Jets when I guess maybe we should have expected that. I mean, it was a really disappointing way to end the season, and not sure you can kind of completely turn that around in 36 hours before everyone says see ya.
Yeah, thank you for that, Huss, for sure. And to me, that if I'm Kevin Cheveldayoff, and I know that I'm not, that was the alarm being sounded by, Connor's the most positive person in the organization. So when the most positive person in the organization says maybe it's time to change the mix, I would say that's a pretty resounding, alarm. Like I said, that was the absolute sounding of the alarm to me. And maybe it was not Connor's intention, but Connor is very direct in what he says and how he says it. He's a very positive person by nature. He is the same person who said he believed the Jets had the pieces to become a dynasty. And when that person says maybe the mix isn't right together, now that to me that was the ultimate kind of sounding board overall. And Huss, you've talked about it during the course of the week, and I felt exactly the same way. There was a finality to Connor Hellebuyck's words. Now, it's important to remember that, yes, 2 days after when you're cleaning things up and you just got eliminated, maybe things are, at the podium, it's not the best setting and maybe things slip out or whatever else. But to me, he sounded like a guy who, if he wasn't on his way out, certainly easily could be. And I just think that there was a little bit too much past tense in a lot of the verbiage with Connor. Now, again, like I said, that may have been unintentional. But to me, the biggest, the other thing outside of him sounding the alarm for Kevin Cheveldayoff and anyone else who is listening that works for the organization was the fact that he said, all I want to do is win cups. And when he looked directly over at Blake and basically said, Huss, now I know what he's talking about. Blake has been saying since around 2016 that you don't know how many chances you're going to get. And I don't think it was a coincidence that in the same, scenario, Blake also mentioned that he would not have signed with Winnipeg and signed over the last of his prime years had the Jets not made a run to the conference final and had he not believed that the Winnipeg Jets were capable of raising the Stanley Cup during that 5 or 6 year span. So I certainly did not get the sense that Connor Hellebuyck was eager to sign on the dotted line, even if the Winnipeg Jets were willing to go, let's just say north of 9 and potentially north of $10 million on a long-term deal, Huss. I mean, that was my interpretation. And then the other thing to me, Huss, that stood out about Hellebuyck's comments was Hellebuyck is the franchise, right? He has been the backbone for quite some time. When the franchise goalie publicly says he's unaware if he's part of the Jets' plans, that's a concern because it either means he has one foot out the door or he doesn't believe in A, the direction the organization is going to take, or B, that he believes the organization will pay him what he believes he's worth. And what he believes he's worth is at the Andrei Vasilevsky level, if not at the Sergei Bobrovsky or Carey Price level. So now that's where the debate comes, Huss. Now you have a goalie who is about to turn 30 in the summertime. Are you willing to go 7 or 8 years at north of $9 million? And are you at the end of that contract having the same legacy conversations that Kevin Cheveldayoff was having about, let's face it, he was talking about Blake Wheeler's contract of being a legacy contract last offseason when he stood at that same podium and had quite a different tone in his delivery.
Yeah, Wheeler's a fascinating situation with the Winnipeg Jets. And I'll tell you what, I mean, I throughout this season gave a lot of credit to Blake for the way he outwardly handled losing the C, for the way that he played, even for the way that he played in the playoffs, to be perfectly honest. I mean, there's a lot of guys that, at times were missing in action. I don't think that 26 was one of those guys.
He was excellent.
That being said, I think a lot of the goodwill that he may have earned with the way he handled stuff, I think was erased a little bit by the way he handled the media and what he had to say. Some of the things that you mentioned, certainly the way he started off the shots at the coach. What happens with Wheeler? I think that as far as importance to the club on the ice, it's Hellebuck, it's the two centers, Scheifele and Dubois. I'm not sure that Blake Wheeler, when it comes to the culture of the club, isn't number one on that list. How do you see this playing out, and what are the options for the club and the most likely result of it, Ken?
Yeah, it's a challenging one. We know that the two sides considered a divorce last summer, so it's natural to conclude that they will look for a voluntary separation once again this year. Widely reported by Frank Saravelli and others that the stumbling block last year was the Jets not wanting to retain salary. Now, if the Jets want to trade Blake Wheeler, there is no way other than to retain salary to remove him from the equation. Now, some folks may be saying, well, how about a team that needs to get to the floor? Well, sure, but then the Jets are going to have to include a sweetener. And for a team that needs to replenish its stock on the farm, I don't see the Jets being willing to give up a first-round pick to move Blake Wheeler out for one season. I would say it's much more likely then that a buyout would occur. Could Blake Wheeler provide value to a team at $4 million? Of course he could. He had 55 points, and he had 6 points in 5 playoff games. So can a contending team afford $4 million and change? Well, that's another story. In a flat cap world, I'm not sure. I would think that some teams would have interest. What's the other, what are the other options? Well, buyout. The Jets have only bought out one player, and that's Mark Stewart. And he was making, I think, Huss 2.65. So it's a big difference buying out 1 year of 2.65 than it is to buy out 1 year at 8.25. The other part that we know about Blake Wheeler, Huss, he's played the game incredibly hard. He's played through a number of gruesome injuries, including one that he suffered this year. Is it possible that Blake Wheeler doesn't even want to play next year, or is he physically unable to? He's pushed himself through incredible limits. His pain threshold is, well documented. But, could the cumulative toll have Wheeler end up on LTIR for 1 year? Could he go to Robidaw Island? Of course, it's a possibility. Only Blake knows for sure, Huss, right? So that's where the kind of uncertainty falls in there. Does Blake want to be bought out and then have a chance to sign a 1 year deal, play for the Minnesota Wild for 1 year at $750,000 and believe that he could be the piece that pushes them over the top, at a time where they have cap problems? I'm not sure. What I do know about Blake Wheeler, Huss, is this. The guy loves to compete. He loves to win. And here's the thing about Blake Wheeler. And I've had this conversation with him multiple times over the 12 years that I have covered him and learned his story. Blake Wheeler dreamed of playing for the University of Minnesota Golden Gophers. He did not dream of playing in the NHL. He was a high school player when he was chosen 5th overall in the draft. Could that opinion have changed over the years? Would he see this as a way to tie a bow at the end of an incredible career by playing 1 year at home? I mean, he loves Minnesota. He loves everything about Minnesota. Could that be a possibility? Absolutely. How does Bill Guerin feel? We don't know that either. But if Blake wants to play, I would say there will be a team that makes room for Blake Wheeler. But when it comes to his standing with the Winnipeg Jets, although we heard multiple players say he's still the captain, you're right. In order for the Jets to take the next step as an organization, Blake Wheeler needs to move on to another city and play elsewhere, because right now the Jets don't have room for Blake Wheeler, the 20-minute-a-game player on the second line or on the first line. He needs to take a reduced role. His ice time was reduced, Huss, at times this year, including in the playoffs, and that produced some of his best hockey. Do I think Blake Wheeler wants to be a third liner with the Winnipeg Jets? Absolutely not. This is a guy who holds himself to an incredibly high standard. He has been the most productive, one of the most productive forwards in franchise history. And I don't think he wants to take on a reduced role with the Jets. He already took on a reduced role when it came to leadership. I don't think he would care to be a third line player with the Winnipeg Jets, even if he thought they could win the Stanley Cup. And Huss, quite frankly, right now, the Jets are not a Stanley Cup contender. So if Blake thinks he only has 1 year left, I think he will be pushing to move on from the organization. Do I think Blake Wheeler will have his number 26 raised to the rafters at some point in the next 5 to 10 years? Absolutely, I do. He gave his best years to the city of Winnipeg. He was one of the first people to build a house here. Mm-hmm. He has put his kids through school here. His wife, Sam, and Blake are very involved in the community, and they will be celebrated for those contributions to the community. But right now, I think that both sides are preparing for moving on, and I don't know what the best way to do that is. I do think that all options will be exhausted, and that will be the case. Could I see a scenario where Blake rolls in September for training camp? Sure, it's got to be listed as a possibility. I just, again, think that Blake sounded like someone at the podium who had played his last game. Now, it's important to remember that the legacy question was asked as a hypothetical. So you can't say, well, just because he answered the question, he's out the door. But I would say it's unlikely Blake is back to play another year, Huss. And that's just my gut feeling from covering Blake. I don't pretend to know him well. He does keep to himself the majority of the time, but I don't see him playing another. I think the next time Blake sees himself with a Winnipeg Jets jersey is when that jersey is raised to the rafters in that building downtown.
I'm with you on that. And I mean, listen, I think as this team tries to forge through with a new identity, new leadership, Wheeler's at the top of that list. I'm not sure Mark Scheifele isn't far off. I mean, those guys have been, listen, it was the Scheifele and Wheeler show for a long time. Yeah. Paul Maurice gave them the keys, and obviously Scheifele's in a very different situation. There'll be demand for him. He's on a very affordable contract considering the 42 goals that he put up, and before this season, point-a-game production for 6 straight seasons. The situation is different, but when it comes to, I mean, do you share my opinion that he is right there with Blake? And if you're really trying to change the culture and the chemistry of the team, he's part of that exodus as well? And maybe speak to what you believe the options might be for a Winnipeg Jet team and what they'd be looking to get back realistically in a trade for that player with 1 year left.
Yeah, Huss, I mean, it's the classic game of chicken that's going to be happening. And the problem for Kevin Cheveldayoff, who's known for his patience, Huss, this is one time where, yes, you can't just accept the first deal that comes your way, but you got to be careful because there are going to be a limited number of teams with the funds available to get those players, whether it's Scheifele or Dubois or even potentially Hellebuck, if that's where the Jets have to go. So you're going to have to be able to act fairly quickly, identify players that you want. You can't just trade for futures because, as we mentioned earlier, we don't think there's an appetite for a rebuild. You know, who those teams are going to be also could be dependent on what happens this round. I mean, we've often talked about Detroit. It makes a lot of sense to me, not because he just brought up Stevie Yzerman's name and he was a Red Wings fan growing up. If the Toronto Maple Leafs can't get themselves turned around in this next stretch against Paul Maurice and the Florida Panthers, could the Toronto Maple Leafs be looking to try to find room for a $6 million player for 1 year? Mark is obviously, he's an Ontario kid. He would have some appeal for them for sure. What about Edmonton? I mean, there are teams that think that their window is closing, and then there are other teams that think they might be able to sign these guys long-term, whether that's Dubois or Scheifele. So it's got to be some combination of present and futures. We've often talked this week about Boston, Huss. They could be an option for either Dubois or Scheifele if both Bergeron and Krejci are gone. Who would the Jets be looking at coming back? I'm not 100% sure there. If they have to move Hellebuck, would they try to get Ullmark in return? Of course, that's a possibility. He's at 3 more years at $5 million. That makes a lot of sense to me. Is it equal value? I'm not sure. But the guy who's going to win the Vezina, Huss, was sitting out Game 7. Now, whether that's because he was banged up and a little bit hurt or because he had a tough series, only the Bruins know for sure. But that's a guy who has some value. He has some, contract status. So I do think that Mark is on the move, Huss. I think that Mark, over the years has been influenced by Blake Wheeler. There's no doubt he's been influenced by his leadership style. They are very close friends. They played together an incredible amount of time. I don't think that they were going to end up in the same place unless Wheeler is bought out and decides to go on a shorter, on a lower wage contract to where Mark is going to end up being. I do think that Mark is also, I said it this way, Huss, at the start of the year, I thought there was still an opportunity for Mark to play his entire career with the Jets. And, to a degree, there still is. But I can't see a scenario where the Jets are paying Mark Scheifele north of $8 million for, 6, 7, 8 years. I don't see that right now. Is it possible? Sure. But I don't know that it's going to be happening. I don't think it's going to be happening. I do think that Mark, and not just that the Jets may think that it's time. I just think if Mark, Huss, if you're Mark and you look at the way your playoffs ended, dating back to 2019, where it was just on ice disappointment, you have an injury disappointment, you have a suspension disappointment, and you have another injury disappointment. And stuffed in the middle, you have a non-playoff team season where you basically said you weren't sure you wanted to stick around much longer. So for me, if you look at that,
let's not forget about the end of this season as well, because I think that's a big reason why Rick Bowness made a point of mentioning what happened in the second half, because this was not just about a couple of players that played in game number 5. This was a couple of the central figures in the slide that happened again last season. And Mark Scheifele was, maybe the central character in all of that, especially considering the way he reacted to the benching in Carolina.
Well, and I would even say Mark's been in the crosshairs, for sure since the benching. For absolutely, the fact that Rick even publicly said the catering. When Mark doesn't want to play right wing anymore, he can just tug on my pant leg, and then Rick basically saying we had gotten all that we could out of that scenario. I would say that if people didn't think that Mark was part of the conversation, or the people that Rick was mentioning publicly, they're not paying attention. He certainly was not the only one. The Jets had plenty of players who were missing in action in round 1 at various points prior to the injuries. So, yeah, I just think that if they're trying to fully change the culture, and, we know that Paul Maurice catered to Blake Wheeler and Mark Scheifele. We know that has been, when Jeff Hamilton and other people are talking about players who want to dictate who they're playing with, Mark was part of that situation. Mark was an incredibly productive player for this organization. He will always hold a special place and standing with them as their first draft pick in Jets 2.0 history. But I think, together, I think the organization, if they're trying to chart a new path, I think they're going to go in a different direction. And I think for Mark himself, I think he needs to find out what it's like somewhere else and where he fits in. We know there's kind of been an undercurrent of Mark believing that he's been underpaid for a long time. Well, Mark is a year away from going to market, and a team that acquires him can sign him right now. So we'll find out what he gets on that market. I think he will be in demand to a degree for sure. Scoring is a incredibly difficult quality. I do think that Mark took some strides when it comes to his defensive zone play. Were there a few lapses? Absolutely there were, but that's not uncommon for skilled players. And even skilled players who are very good. Mitch Marner had a terrible flyby in game 1. Huss, on the same night, he got announced as one of the 3 candidates for the Selke Trophy. So this is just a reminder for people that see one clip of Mark Scheifele and say, how in the hell can you play that way? Mitch Marner is a Selke candidate, and he had a flyby at a very inopportune time.
Scheifele, not a Selke candidate.
No. And that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is if Selke candidates can be made to look that way, imagine what other players among the 700 and change that suit up during the course of the year can look like. I think too, Huss, and ultimately this is the other part of the equation. Obviously it was a special season for Dale Hawerchuk with the statue and everything else. I think no matter what happens, Huss, this summer, I do think there will come a time for Mark where he looks back longingly and fondly of his time in Winnipeg, but I'm not sure he has a full grasp of the appreciation for what his situation is like currently until he goes somewhere else, the same way Dale did, right? And this is what we've always talked about, Huss. When Mark signed that contract, everyone thought this could be the time where, they wished Dale had never left. Now, of course, we know the team left. Dale would have had to leave, of course. But they saw it an opportunity for Mark to become what they wished Dale had been, a Steve Yzerman type of player who spent his entire career with one organization. I don't think that's going to be the case anymore, but I do think there will also come a time where Mark is rightfully celebrated, just like Blake will be. And I think Mark will come back and have that same kind of affinity for the Jets that Dale always had after his career wound up, and he became such an ambassador for the program before his, untimely passing.
Yeah, no, great stuff, Weber. I know you got to get to the rink, so I'll let you go. But listen, we haven't even touched on Dubois, and really in the next couple of weeks when we have our convos, we can talk more about some possibilities we can get. I mean, today was all about the shrapnel of
there was a bit of that
of last weekend, and of course Thursday night. But it is about moving forward, and it is going to be fun talking about some possibilities, some potential landing spots with all of those Jet players that potentially could be on the move in what we expect to be a pretty significant off season. Have a good game today. We'll see you on the 16th at TCB, and we will definitely talk with you next week on WST. Have a great weekend, dude.
You too, Huss. Thanks for having me. And just my quick weigh in here. I know you just had Josh on. We're not allowed to reveal our ballots yet, but what I will say is, had Cale Makar played in, even 70 plus games, I would have had him number one on my ballot. But I don't think that missing a quarter of the season. I'm just going to say this: I didn't have him on my ballot because he missed a quarter of the season. Otherwise, I may have had him number one. There were a lot of great candidates for the award, including Miro Heiskanen, who is, showing on a grand stage how good he is. It is, in some ways it's tough for Josh. Some people just let's just put it this way. A lot of people doing a lot of yelling. There are a lot of great candidates. I had Josh in my top three, that I will say with confidence. And he had a great year, and that is still to be celebrated. We can talk about snubs all we want. Josh had a great year. He was an incredible driver for this hockey team that plays in our community. And here's the thing about Josh. He's still getting better, Huss. So I expect this to be fuel for him. I think he'll have another great year next year. I think he'll be even better next year. And, I would expect him to stay in the Norris discussion for quite some time based on the incredible strides he took this year.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I'm biased, I'll admit. I thought he got hosed, at least on not being a finalist in the event. But, hey, you know what? Sometimes it's a little more difficult to do it. And to be honest, the team didn't do him any favors. If this team doesn't have the second half that they had, we're probably having a different conversation today. But it is what it is. It was great to have him on, and great to have him part of our Unsung Hero program with Wallace and Wallace. Kenny, have a good weekend. We'll talk to you next week, bro.
You too, my friend. Thanks for having me.
Good
Cheers.
stuff. There's Ken Wiebe. Give him a follow at Wiebe's World, and check out. He did have a great piece. He's had a number of them, but especially coming out of the weekend. If you missed it, check it out over at Sportsnet.ca, or I'm sure he'll have a link over at Wiebe's World on Twitter. All right, Marbles coming up. Great to see everyone out here. Lots of folks. Hit that red subscribe button if you haven't already, and you will need to hit that red subscribe button if you haven't already to be part of our world-famous Winnipeg Sports Talk Marble Race, which is coming up a little later on in the program. But we're going to do a couple of quick hitters. We've got Andrew Collier from the Goldeyes coming up for a little bit of a check-in with the ball team, who opened up camp a couple days ago and just hit the road today, and a Kentucky Derby preview with our friend Kirt Contois from Assiniboia Downs. Speaking of the Goldeyes, and of course we were all gaga about the big Castillo signing for the Bombers earlier today, Princess Auto, proud Winnipeg company and proud sponsors of both the Goldeyes, the Bombers, and Winnipeg Sports Talk. Princess Auto is where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Visit them in-store, 2 Winnipeg locations, or you can also shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. Our friends at Consolidated Supply are ready for spring, folks. They're the leaders in irrigation systems, artificial turf, golf carts, both new and used, and other great options for your property, including hot tubs and amazing outdoor kitchens. They've also the go-to, folks, on small engine parts and small engine repair if you need those services as well. Spicy Joe, the entire gang are there to help you, and you can pop by and check out everything they've got going on at their new showroom. We were out for the grand opening a couple weeks ago, which is open to the public at 1395 Niagara Road East. It's Consolidated Supply. You can also find out more on everything they've got going on at their website, online at cte.ca. Well, with spring here, time for another visit to Manitoba's #1 sports superstore with the biggest selection of licensed team gear featuring the Jets, Bombers, NHL, NFL, tons of new Major League Baseball gear just in time for the new season as well. Of course, just thousands of options when it comes to shoes, a massive Yeti section, so many great things to help you make the most of both spring and summer. And speaking of spring, new inventory coming out daily. Soccer, baseball, softball, tennis, and so much more, not to mention a great selection of bikes. It's all there waiting for you at Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Give them a follow on Instagram at Royal Sports Pembina for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. And hey, as we head into the weekend, only one game tonight. We'll hit the Coolbet lines in a minute on that. But great time to get together for little Friday sesh at Boston Pizza, watching the game. Of course, Blue Jays as well. I believe it's Fishbowl Friday. But they also have some great new things on their Fanalytics approved menu, including the beer garita. You're going to have to check that out in person at your local Boston Pizza. It's all available now. No better place to get together with friends watching playoff hockey and all your favorite sports than your local BP. And if you are staying in, you can always order online at bostonpizza.com. All right, Derby preview for a few minutes coming up, but right now let's head down to Shaw Park. Welcome in Goldeyes GM Andrew Collier for the latest on training camp and what we're going to be eating and drinking at the ballpark this season ahead of their home opener on May 19th.
Ash, what's going on? How are you?
Hey, Huss, good to see you.
Good to see you as well. And I imagine it was great to see all the ball players back at the park. Mother Nature's smiling on you guys for the first couple days of camp.
Yeah, I can't remember a couple days that were as good weather as we had these last few days. I think Greg called Rick and said that he must have been lying to him all these years that training camp in Winnipeg was always cold. It was beautiful the last couple days.
Speaking of Greg, we had a great chat with our new field manager, Greg Taggart, a little earlier in the offseason. This team, this has been Rick's team for a long, long time. What's it been like with the new boss in town, and how were things greatly different than what you remember under Rick? Tell us about the first couple days of Greg's tenure.
First couple days were interesting. It's definitely a departure from how Rick ran camp and ran practice. Greg is very analytical and methodical. He likes repetition, and his teams have always been at the top of the league in defense, and you can see why the last couple days. He really puts the work in and makes the guys work hard as well.
So he and new pitching coach Tom Thornton are in with the fellas a couple days. Got to get outside. As we mentioned, the weather was great. What about the squad? Obviously, Max Murphy's back. I mean, he's been one of the best players in independent baseball and was the player of the year back. But tell us about the team and maybe some of the newbies that are here. Some good Canadian content on the squad this year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because we don't have a whole lot of returning guys from last year, but we got, like you said, the player of the year last year, Max Murphy. He's back. Luis Ramirez, one of the best starting pitchers last year. Landon Barraza, one of the Canadians you mentioned. RJ Martinez, another pitcher. Our catcher, Gonzalez, is back. We traded for probably the best closer in the Frontier League last year, won a championship with Quebec. Samuel Adamas. He's here. We got one of the best starters from the Frontier League last year. Tyler Jandren is with us. And then we got a bunch of guys on the offensive side that we're going to see how it all shakes out in these next 5 days of camp and preseason games.
So, first couple days here in Winnipeg, but as is the norm for the Fish, usually because the weather is stinking around this time of year, the team heads out on the road. Fill us in on the next couple weeks for the Goldeyes before you finally get back to Shaw Park and the fans finally get back to the ballpark for the opener on the 19th.
Yeah, so like I said, we got 2 preseason games in Fargo tonight and tomorrow, 3 games in Milwaukee, and then next Thursday night in Gary, we start the season, which is very appropriate because Greg Taggart spent a long time there, so I'm sure he'll have a lot of friends from his time there coming out to watch him play. And We play 3 games in Gary, and then we go play 3 in Fargo against the defending champions. And then we're back home on Friday, May 19th.
Now, well, we'll focus in on the squad and what happens through the preseason and, of course, in the first week of the year before the 19th. I know you and your staff are getting the ballpark ready for the upcoming year. How's Craft Beer Corner looking? We have our spot there. Fill us in on that part of the ballpark, as well as anything that might be a little new this year that fans will look forward to seeing when they get out there for the home opener in the Goldeyes season.
Yeah, either later today or Monday, I'm going to move the draft units from storage up to Craft Beer Corner. It's one of the greatest days of the year, got to be honest.
I can feel the excitement in your voice just mentioning that.
Plugging them in, cooling them off, getting some kegs in there. Yeah, that's good times right there. Yeah, looking forward to that. We're going to have 15 different brewers featured at Craft Beer Corner this summer, which is more than we've ever had. It's such a great community that keeps growing every year. Some great beer out there. So just like last year, we'll have cans of beer from Fort Garry, Trans-Canada, Little Brown Jug, and Torque at every game. So 10 different cans of beer, and then 8 beers on tap. So there will be 18 different craft beer, local beers available at every single game. And like I said, I've said many times, if you can't find one beer out of those 18 beers that you like, well, then I don't know what to tell you. But I think it's perfect for everybody.
Well, and I know that you have been diligently working your way through them all over the course of the off season to make sure that we have only the finest offerings for Goldeyes fans. What about food? We know eating's a big part of getting to the ballpark. I'm always excited to talk to you at the start of the year to find out any new additions. What can you tell us about the culinary offerings down at Shop Park coming up this season?
Well, your favorites are back. The Big Smoke, Mr. Pierogi.
Yes.
Your usual haunts. But this year, maybe it was because of the feature you did on Instagram of the poutine dog at Rogers Center. Is that what it's called? Rogers Center? I still call it Skydome.
Yeah.
I'm that old. The poutine dog will make an appearance at Shaw Park this summer. But the newest feature, which I'm really looking forward to trying and watching other people attempt to eat, is the Goldeyes Grand Slamwich, which is an entire loaf of garlic bread cut in half, 4 burgers, 4 slices of cheese, 2 split wieners, nacho cheese, 4 chicken fingers, 4 slices of bacon, crispy onions, and spicy ketchup, all for $60. It's going to be awesome.
This sounds like it is made for multiple people, but there'll be a few individuals that decide that they can hit their own Grand Slam.
Like I said earlier, we don't judge. If you want to polish that off yourself, go for it.
Listen, I hit the most important things to me and many fans, and we can't wait to see the team come out. I have to ask you though, one of the things when I was at the ballpark in Toronto watching the Jays games that it really hits you and it's stark is how fast the game goes with the pitch clock. Fill us in on the new rules. Pitch clock is going to be in. How might the game look different for fans coming this year?
I don't think it'll look a whole lot different other than it will be quicker. And I think Major League Baseball fans and our fans have been saying for years the games are just too long. When you get to 3:15, 3:20, 3.5, sometimes 4-hour, 9-inning games, it's too long. It's too much. There's too much dead time between pitches, guys stepping out of the box, fixing their gloves, pitchers walking around the mound doing what they're doing. I think it just keeps the game moving, and I think it'll keep our fans engaged. And watching a 2.5-hour game, a 2:40 game, 2:45 is so much better than a 4-hour game. It's more interesting, keeps everybody involved. But we're only adopting the pitch clock rules, same rules as the Major League. 15 seconds between pitches with nobody on base, 20 seconds with guys on base, 30 seconds between batters. We don't have the bigger bases. We don't have the ban on the shift. So it's just the pitch clock that we've adopted.
Well, and that's what people will see the most. I mean, it was stark just how quick everything went, which is an interesting tie-in to what we just talked about with food and beverage. Have you moved back last call? Like, will that be at the end of the 8th inning or potentially till the end of the game? And I say this somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but to be honest, the games were going so quick, and people do like to come there and drink. I mean, I was worried about or wondering about, some revenue loss just of time for sales. Have you made any decisions on whether that will change, knowing that these games are going to be considerably shorter this season?
Well, to be honest, our last call rules have always been fairly flexible, so I don't think we need to adjust anything. You can get a beer pretty much when you want.
Well, I'll tell you what, these games are flying by, so might have people just hanging out for a half hour afterwards because they don't want to leave the game yet because they just hit Craft Beer Corner for one and are taking 3 hours to eat their Grand Slamwich.
Perfect. I'll come and join them because I usually make an appearance at Craft Beer Corner after the game is over.
Andrew Collier, GM of the Winnipeg Goldeyes. The home opener is coming up. The season begins on May 11th, but the home opener at Shaw Park is on May 19th versus Lake Country. 30th season right now. Andrew, if people are thinking about either season tickets for their company or maybe a group outing earlier in the season, a mini pack for the family, give a quick plug on that where you can find out all the information or your great staff waiting to help people get their seats for the year.
Yeah, they can give us a call at 204-92-2273. Goldeyes.com has all the information. Just click on tickets, group outings, patio outings, sky suites. We added another double suite this year. We now have 3 double suites that accommodate up to 50 people. There's a huge demand for that last year, so we knocked down the wall between 2 of the suites and created another double suite. But yeah, our group sales coordinators are all ready for those calls.
Well, we got 2 weeks until first pitch at the ballpark. I cannot wait. Good luck to the team on the road as they prepare for it, and can't wait to see game number 1 at home under Greg Taggart 2 weeks today on the 19th of March. Andrew, all the best this season as we get into year 30 of Goldeyes baseball now in downtown Winnipeg. Thanks for doing this and have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right, can't wait for Goldeyes season, May 19th, 2 weeks today, home opener. And I see all you in chat saying I'm going to need to take on the Grand Slam, which I think we'd need a number of us from the WST chat to take on that bad boy. But we'll definitely check one out when we're there very, very soon. And yes, we are going to do probably do a couple WST nights at the ballpark, but we'll figure out a day, probably into June, let you know about it, and I'll hopefully get a great crew out to join us at the Goldeyes games. And hey, when we're there, we'll be able to enjoy some Little Brown Jug, Winnipeg's favorite local beer, including the new generic lager, which you can pick up at the tap room and brewery down on William Avenue. And it's actually out around, I saw it last weekend at the Osborne Tap House on tap. So if you're going to some of your local haunts that have great local beer, check out to see if they've got the new generic lager. Of course, you can always get the flagship Little Brown Jug offering $19.19. Find out more and check out their entire site with local delivery, littlebrownjug.ca. We've got that little golf update over at the Wells Fargo. Tyrrell Hatton, Nate Lashley, Wyndham Clark, 8 under with the lead. Xander Schauffele, JJ Spawn, Justin Thomas, and Adam Scott, 7 under right now. Adam Svensson, the top Canadian, at 6 under par. Great course at Quail Hollow. Should be a great weekend on the tour. Of course, our golf reports are brought to you by a Breezy Bend. Open now. Last weekend officially, one of Manitoba's top private clubs with a championship course, top-notch practice facilities, and the best 19th hole around on their beautiful course-side patio. If you're thinking about an amazing long-term home for you and your family on the course with an amazing social scene, Breezy's the spot. Find out more at breezybend.ca or call our pal Corey Johnson for more information on becoming a member. And I'm going to probably get out and do a little fishing with Andrew Collier. He's often on the river. If you're thinking about a world-class fishing trip right here in Manitoba where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours, Aikens Lake is the spot. And as much as the fishing is world-class, the hospitality from the Terren family, Pat, and the rest of the gang there is maybe even better than world class. Cannot wait to get out there this summer. They are approaching, I think, 90% capacity for booking this year. So if you want to get out to Aikens, either for a corporate event, retreat, or just a friends and family trip, get on it right now. aikenslake.com is the website. And you can also email our pal Pitt Turen, pitt@aikenslake.com for more information about booking the Aikens experience. Very quickly, let's get to the cool bet lines. Blue Jays in Pittsburgh. What a season the Pirates have had to start off the year. Did not expect that. Blue Jays, though, -149. Pirates +132. In the National Hockey League, we've only got one game tonight. It's the Devils and the Hurricanes. Hurricanes a slight home favorite at -113. Devils at -104. And the cool bet exclusives are a load up number of exclusives, including a few for the Blue Jays tonight. Check those out at the exclusives, and Kentucky Derby odds as well. If you want to do some head-to-head options, obviously closer to race time, they'll have the odds for the race as well. Of course, coolbet.com is where you want to go. Check out the Lock Shop as well. Lock Shop Bets on Twitter as well as on Instagram. Dusty and I will be back next week with more episodes with the latest from a sports betting standpoint. We got to get to Kirt Contois, but hit up !marbles right now. We'll do the marble race as soon as we are done. Getting ready for the Kentucky Derby right now with Kirt Contois at Assiniboia Downs.
What's up, Kirt? How are you?
I'm doing awesome, Hustler. Horses are back on the grounds. My winter vacation is over, but usually I'd cry at this time, but with the Derby and opening day only a couple weeks after, I'm really getting excited for it.
Hey, just before we get to the Derby, what's going on at the track right now? I imagine this is the crazy time of year. Is everyone's showing up? Everyone's getting ready? I mean, how hectic are things around the track these days?
Well, things are pretty hectic. We have about just under 350 horses on the grounds, which is about equal to last year. But a lot of the horses that will be coming are still running at Fauner Park and Turf Paradise in Phoenix. That meet is ending this weekend. So we'll expect in the next week and a half to have probably 100 more horses to roll in, and somewhere around 500 for opening day.
That is phenomenal. Well, we'll spend some more time getting ready for opening day, but let's get ready for this weekend and the Kentucky Derby. Was the usual huge field, but that's taken a bit of a hit in the last few days, apparently.
Unbelievable. Myself and Stretch, we taped ASD Live Kentucky Derby preview yesterday, early in the afternoon, and since then, 4 horses have gone by the wayside. They're scratched, so they won't be in. And one was just early this morning. The 9-horse Skinner was added to the scratch list to make the 4th one scratched. So the 3 horses that were sitting on the fence saying, please let me in, all 3 of them are in and going to try and do what Rich Strike did last year, draw in off the bench and try and get all the money.
Oh, you mentioned Rich Strike. I mean, that was a historic run for one of the biggest upsets in Derby history, wasn't it?
Oh, it definitely was. But the race really set up last year for Rich Strike. The pace was absolutely hot. Rich Strike was in his own time zone way at the back. But when the running came at the end, that's where Rich Strike absolutely flourished and got the win at $163.
Unbelievable. It was just like a Frogger game at the end, just going through everyone and making it to the end. So set us up. I mean, so now what are we down to? 19 horses, 20 horses for the Derby after the 4 scratches?
Down to 19. This is absolutely unheard of. I've been out at the racetrack almost 38 years now, and usually you get 1 scratch. I've seen 2 before, but never have I seen 3 or 4, and it's up to 4 right now. So the field started with the extras that were on the outside at 23, but with the 4 scratches, only 19 will go to post.
Tell us about the field. I guess let's start at the top before we get your picks. Who are the favorites right now? as we head into the weekend?
Well, definitely the favorite will be Forte, the 15 horse. This is a horse that's won 6 out of the 7 starts, looked absolutely dynamite as a 2-year-old, came into this 3-year-old season, won his first start there real easy, and then won not as easy, but still won last time out. So he's going to be the big favorite in there. But right behind him, Tap It Trice, the 5 horse. That horse is nipping on the heels. Also has won 4 out of 5. Comes off of 3 wins in a row, looking for 4. So those are the ones who are really going to take a bulk of the money. And then everybody else is going to be the double-digit variety.
Now, Kirt, I haven't come in blind on this. I've been doing a little recon on the Derby, getting ready for our conversation, and I'm hearing an interesting development with Japanese horses dominating in races around the world, and apparently there's a couple Japanese horses in this race.
There is. One ended up being scratched. That was the 20 horse Continuar, but there's still Mandarin Hero was the 22 horse, wasn't in, ran absolutely massive last time out against Practical Move, which is another horse that is scratched, but it ran a bang-up race, even a winning race, but ended up only losing by a neck. And another horse that's in there is Dermo Sotogaki, the 17 horse. And yes, these Japanese horses, I used to just throw them out. They were never any good, but all of a sudden, Japan made its presence felt last couple of years in the Breeders' Cup, and their program has come such a long way. They definitely, both those horses do have a shot, number 17 and 22.
I think I'm going to be riding with Derma Sotogake after hearing about this. And it is a really interesting story. This comes back to breeding from, I believe, a former winner that didn't have a lot of interest on the North American market, ended up going to Japan, and a few years later, a ton of championship thoroughbreds coming from Japan.
Yeah, it's crazy how the breeding process goes. Some start out slow, some start out fast, but it's the dad and mom combos. That's what it is. You can have moms that aren't that good, so the breeding doesn't take, and then you put that right combination together, and then they just flourish. So the breeding part, that is quite the gamble in itself.
Kirt Contois from Assiniboia Downs with us, getting ready for the Kentucky Derby. He'll go off around 6 p.m. Central Time on Saturday. So I'm not sure whether you and Stretch have to re-record your ASD live preview, but fill us in on a couple of the horses that you're considering to put at the top of your card, Kirt.
Well, of course, Forte you got to look at, and up at Trice. Let's get away from the favorites. Everybody can pick those as the horses are winning machines. But a horse that I really like is number 8, Maj. This horse has only started 3 times, won its first start convincingly, but that's a maiden race. Anybody can win those. Then it stepped up and instantly ran against Forte in the second lifetime start. Didn't run bad and got in trouble late. But what happened was then the horse took off again. I like when horses do that. It shows that they have that determination to win. And last time out, went against Forte again, made a power move from last, got the lead, and then Forte took a while to get rolling, but ended up stealing that win away. But I think Maj is just like a really improving horse, and I think that's a great play. You got a 15-1 morning line. With the scratches, it might float a little down, but if you're getting 10-1, I think this is a strong play.
Any other horses kind of further down the odds board that you might not necessarily be buying, putting a win bet on, but if you're maybe wanting to make some creative triactors or a couple wheels, and you want to add in a long shot that might jack the odds up, any of the other long shots that you think might at least be in contention or maybe getting on the podium, so to speak?
See, there is a couple, but you're saying going against the triactor, which is a little bit tougher. Last year, the exactor in the Derby, Epicenter was the favorite, ended up running second. Yes, the long shot ran first. A $2 exactor paid $4,000. So if you were taking a $1 exactor wheel, the favorite with all, and then take all on top with the favorite, that would have cost you $38 and you would have got back just over $2,000. So that exactor play is really huge. If you can hit it, there's different ways to go at it. You can do that one horse with all, or you can pick, say, 5 horses at an exactor box, a $1 one. It costs you $20, and you can still get it that way if you like the long shot variety. But this is a year there is no absolute standout. Nothing that has run numbers off the chart. So I think this is one where you could get 20-1 shots running first and second, and that'll play out to an exactor in the 1,500 to 3,000 variety.
What was the triactor on last year's Derby? Do you remember? If the exactor was 4K, I can't imagine what the triple was.
I don't remember offhand, but I think it was about the $6,000 variety for $1.
Well, that's some great betting tips when it comes to the exactors. Hey, just quickly, the Quinella bet. I always do lots of Quinellas where you can get it one way or the other. Is it advantageous to make 2 exactor bets or a Quinella?
Well, a lot of the tracks have gone away from Quinellas, and instead of doing the $2 Quinella, you do an exactor box. So you take 1 and 2, you exactor box it. It could come in either way. Pretty well the same as the Quinella bet. So you can do it that way, but you only get a $1 compared to the $2. But if you're thinking a lot of tracks, for example, our racetrack as an example, in our exactor pool, you're going to have $20,000. In the Quinella pool, you're going to have about $1,200. So if you have a couple long shots come in, you might scoop the whole pool in the Quinella for $1,200. But if there's only a couple winning tickets in the exactor, you're going to get $10,000.
I see. Well, that's the sort of advice. That's why we come to the experts. And the experts are Kirt and Stretch. You can check them on ASD Live throughout the year on their YouTube channel. We had so many great comments and lots of Winnipeg Sports Talk people maybe make a little wager like we do on hpibet.com if you can't make it out to the track and enjoy the races with you guys there. Kirt, enjoy Derby weekend. I know there's lots of work heading down at the track, and can't wait to see you and the gang May 22nd for opening day at ASD.
You betcha, buddy. I'll be there with the headset on and ready to go.
I'm going again. My pick right now, officially, Derma Sotogate, the Otani of horse racing. That's what we need. Now, that not to be confused with our favorite horse, Otani from Assiniboia Downs, but a big performance by a Japanese horse. Wouldn't that be something? I
have a lot of friends who like that one, Hustler.
Oh, let's get it. Thanks, Kirt. Have a great weekend and enjoy the race.
You too. Take care, and hopefully you cash a ticket.
All right, great stuff with Kirt Contois. Opening day at the track, May 22nd. First couple weeks are going Monday, Tuesday, then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday throughout the year. We'll get Double D Darren done on before opening day, but enjoy the Derby tomorrow, and thanks to Kirt for joining us. Interesting strategy talk between the Quinella and the exactor. That, I think, was some great advice. All right, last call for marbles. If you haven't already put it in, exclamation mark marbles. If you have already, don't worry about it. You're in. Remo, we've got to add some extra marbles for today. We definitely need to put in Bones. Bones is probably in for the next little while. He certainly earned it last weekend. Josh Morrissey with us today. Lucha Castillo back with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And you know what? Maybe a bit of an olive branch for their success in the playoffs. Pomo and Dave Lowry with the Kraken, I think both deserve marbles today. Anybody else you thinking?
Yeah, so I got Bones, Josh Morrissey, Sergio Castillo, Paul Maurice, Dave Lowry. That's correct.
Excellent.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, and the marble, it's been open the whole time. Usually there's a prompt in the chat that says to do it, but I'm using a different bot today because it wasn't giving me all the names. So people were confused, and yes, I did have to step out for a second. It's been a busy morning at the household, so
yeah,
it's been
there has been, and of course he had to take a shower during that last.
No,
interview
I didn't shower. That was a one-time thing. I shower in the morning. I shower before every show in the morning to make sure that it's going to be a good show.
The one time he didn't, there was a bunch of screw ups, and that's what forced him to shower in the middle of the show. That didn't happen.
Yes.
Car repairs or a start or something like that. Basically, there's been multiple CAA visits at the Remis household today. Well, let's get to it. Let's fire it up. Should we get to Tristan Rivers and then figure out a track, or what's going on?
I got the track ready. Yeah, I got to end this quickly because I got someone here. So let's try to. Okay, wait. Let me. Before we do this, I got to grab all the names, make sure I have them all. But we should mention, Huss, big contract announcement in the NHL.
Yeah,
just
former
now.
Jet Mikey Esamont. Congratulations to Mikey. What a great story he is. Put on waivers by the Jets, picked up by the Sharks, played pretty well for the Sharks, just like he played pretty well for the Jets. Ended up being traded to Tampa for Vlad Nemetsnikov, who ironically ended up here in Winnipeg. And there was Esamont playing in the playoffs. I really thought that he'd be there as a bit of a depth player for Tampa. Might not even get in. Well, he did, and he earned himself a 2-year deal, albeit, but hey, it's a one-way deal for a guy that's been in the minors the whole time. This is huge. $800,000 next year, $800,000 the year after. So very, very cool story for Esamont, although I'll be honest, I know he's not a big player, but I loved his energy, and that's something that we were missing around here sometimes with the Winnipeg Jets this season. So congratulations to Mikey Esamont on his contract with the Tampa Bay Lightning. All right, we got to bang out this marble race, but we can't do it without first getting to Tristan Rivers, Remo. Be the DJ. Let's get the theme song, and then let's get dropping them.
It's Friday, another week of work's gone by. You deserve to treat yourself, maybe an ice cream cake or a bottle of rye. Form the whole day in, so lax you can't deny. Why use effort even for pleasure? Give life a try. It's time to do a marble race. No skill separated fast to words. Marble race. Just like marbles with the punctuation first. Marble race. Don't spam or you will suffer unexplained. Marble race. Into your mark before it's too late. Set go.
All right, another Tristan Rivers music original, and we are ready to finish off quite a week here on Winnipeg Sports Talk with our marble race. Remo, we've got the marbles in. Oh, wow, we've got some wild music in the background to accompany us. All right, sounds good. Well, let's get to it. You can take it away. I can't really see what you're dealing with here. Sounds good. I don't think we've ever done hop, step, and a jump. I guess we'll have to. We'll talk to people in chat. Gang, there is as we mentioned, sometimes life enters in the middle of work. And, many of us can just, back in the day take an afternoon off to take care of a few things. We have the intersection right now of real world challenges for a family man like Michael Remis, and the CTO of the award-winning Winnipeg Sports Talk podcast and YouTube channel. And so basically, he is just going to make sure that whatever is getting taken care of is getting taken care of, and then we will do the marbles. He did not die. No, we are missing we are missing all the Remo good comments. Can you all hear me, or am I muted too? Remis is not muted. He's absent. Yes, it is DEFCON 9. I think it's usually DEFCON 9 when you have a 3-year-old and 5-month-old, and then cars that are giving you issues as well. So if you can, just confirm that you can actually hear me. And yes, emergencies. That's right. Okay, you guys can hear me. Okay, great. Anyways, we'll get to the marbles right away. It should not be long. What else? Any other hot takes on the this Essimont contract? Okay, just you, Huss. Yeah, well, it is just me. He's not here right now. That's this is not a matter of Remis being muted. I'm not talking to myself. I'm talking to all of you. And that is the one great thing that, even when you do need to, kill a little bit of time, take on, I'm not going to get into a big soliloquy. We've already been talking for an hour, 2 hours today on the program. We're actually well past 3 o'clock. We're a little late for the marbles, but there was a lot going on. If you did join us late, get back to the start of the show. Nice visit with Josh Morrissey. And again, wrapping up, really, really amazing stuff that he's done with the Dream Factory. And we were so lucky to have Wallace and Wallace come on board with us and, decide to add a downtime for them to continue to support us through the winter and put together that Unsung Hero program that we enjoyed doing so much. And certainly fingers crossed we can do it again next year with all of the parties involved, Wallace and Wallace, Jets All-Star defenseman Josh Morrissey, and of course, the people at the Dream Factory. So check those out. As I mentioned, just the one game tonight. I hope New Jersey can win this game. After seeing what Jersey did against the Rangers, I would love to see them play into the next round, potentially against the Florida Panthers. Wouldn't that be wild? A Devils-Panthers Eastern Conference final. Certainly kind of not what we were expecting at the beginning of the year. But here we go. Certainly not what we were expecting in the middle of the year for the Panthers. The Devils actually had this amazing season. It's getting close to a pick'em right now. Total 5.5 in that game tonight. But we will get to it. I see. I'm reading some chats. Huss, we need your thoughts on adding ketchup to poutine. I'm not down. I remember even in junior high, some kids would put ketchup with their fries and gravy, and that. I don't know. Ketchup, absolute green light for fries. I just not really mixing it with poutine. I think poutine's pretty good the way that it is. And I sure as hell did not put ketchup on that poutine hot dog. I'll tell you that much. Bravo Bry, great stuff about the moose. I'm not sure. I don't know whether we're going to be adding any more marbles. But what a great visit we had yesterday with Jimmy Ligney. And if you missed, I've known Craig Heisinger for a long time. And he really does most of his stuff quiet behind the scenes. The Moose itself has been, really his life ever since 1996. And even in his role with the Winnipeg Jets, he does run the Moose. The pride that he had yesterday in that video in announcing to the team that Jimmy had won the AHL Man of the Year. It was a special video. The Moose put it out. But again, congratulations to Jimmy. And most importantly, good luck to the Moose tonight. It is going to be tough. They're taking on the Milwaukee Admirals. It's a hell of a team. They've managed to get back-to-back wins in overtime in Game 2 and Game 3. Got to win tonight or in Game 5 to continue this season. And fingers crossed we'll have 2 local teams playing in the playoffs. Unfortunately, the Jets won't be one of them. But the Ice begin their championships matchup with either Kamloops or the Seattle Thunderbirds next Friday. And as far as the playoff bracket goes there, the T-Birds need one more. They won last night 8-4, so they can ice it and move on to the finals on Saturday. Regardless of who wins, ice at home, games 1 and 2, next Friday and Saturday at the Ice Cave. Tickets went on sale yesterday, so if you want to get some, I'm not sure whether it's sold out already, but you better get on it right now. All right. I think Remis is back from another shower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had I guess I got to be transparent because we're on the show. So I did the mobile tire change with CAA. They came to my house and swapped out the winter tires for the summer ones, and it was on my wife's car, and it's kind of nice. Like, you don't have to leave the house. They just come and do it. But then my wife went to start the car, and I don't know, something happened. The lights were left on or something, and it didn't start. So then I called CAA to come back and boost the car. I mean, I can boost a car myself, but like, I'm here doing the show, and it's her car. Just want to let everyone know that I am capable of doing that, Hustler. But you know, I was expecting like an hour wait or whatever, you know, because that's what it always is. But I guess it's summer and Friday, and no one's calling CA, so it literally came within 10 minutes. So I was poor. I couldn't really cancel it after I called it, so they came at the end and boosted the car for me. So that's what happened.
Well, there's only one thing to do. I would say crack a beer, which I probably will be doing shortly.
I should do that. Yeah.
First, we need to like usually by 3:15. I'm well into weekend mode. We're not quite there yet. By the way, you're seeing this Wendy's. We did also record. I did a review of the Wendy's Breakfast Baconator today. Keep an eye on our TikTok channel. We'll drop that out. And I guess most people saw the poutine dog review already, but we'll put that out. Going to add a few more food reviews into our arsenal when things are a little bit low. We know how that gets the views. Listen, we've learned a few things about this YouTube and internet game in the meantime. All right, Remo, let's do this. Hop, skip, and a jump. I don't think we've ever done that before.
Okay, I'm going to click on it. Hopefully it's good. I got to find it. There it is. Yep, so and I did add in a Jimmy Oligny marble after you said that.
Good. Yes, man of the year, Jimmy. That's
AHL man of the year.
AHL man of the year. Second Moose ever to win after the legendary Jimmy Roy. Whoa, look at this one. All right, I am here for it. New track alert on WST. Hop,
this is cool.
Skip, and a jump.
This looks
I have
cool.
a feeling there's going to be a lot of casualties on this one. Although, again, I haven't seen it before. So buckle up, everybody. Here we go. It is time, after a little bit of a delay, but we appreciate your patience, to drop the marbles and get ready for the weekend on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Let's go. Okay. So this is a big funnel into, what do we call this?
What is this
thing?
race? This is a crazy one.
I don't know.
Where are they going to go? Okay, so they
get shot out of this thing. As I said, I think there's going to be tons of casualties.
I also think there's going to be like one marble who gets shot out of this thing to the finish line too.
Well, we'll see. Patrolman Pete, Ice Fan Extraordinaire, MC Stormy in. Now, does everyone just get ratcheted around? There's Candace Janes getting thrown. This is cool. Who's going to come out first? TTT Biabone and Mark Sports Video. They made it. Ryan Dry. Dan Jets fan. Oh, Dan Jets fan's gone. Rain's gone. Vermette. I'm just looking at who's getting bounced. Miller Time. North End Ninja. Chris Koff. We knew. T-Coda Polly. See ya. Dan Milburn, Josh Morrissey. Poor Josh just got thrown over the top rope for all he's done for the community. Just does not seem right. All right, Mark Sports Video is alive. T-Bone is alive. Larry TSG and this is Larry's gone. Mark has survived. It looks like this is Mark's race to win or lose. And Mark Sports Video is in with the win. Paul Maurice in third. Everything's coming up Pomo right now. A podium finish for the marble race today. Dallas Pauls, fourth place. Nicely done. Tackleberry just won a couple weeks ago. He's had a nice run. Greg Hasbeek, top 10. Attaboy, Greg. S. Elder, Zach C., Dave Shakowicz, and Herb Sturman. All right, everyone else that's made it coming in. There's Bardot. Dave Lowry just got... Will he come in?
Oh,
Dave. You know, that's a great metaphor for Dave. You know what? He had a rough ride. He got bounced out in Winnipeg and yet landed in a great spot at the finish line and now in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Mark Sports Video. Well done. Big thanks to our friends at Shipham & Associates for the new hoodies. If I owe you one from the last few weeks, I sent out a few emails, but if you haven't seen it, send us one, and we'll set up a pickup at some point next week. Mark, let us know what your size is, winnipegsportstalk@gmail.com, and we'll get that set up next week for a pickup. Remis is just rolling through. We'll see how many people ended up finishing. I thought it was going to be about 50-50 from finishing and from over the top rope. What do we got here? There's Bozeman in. Great time with my guy Bozeman last night. Have a great trip, Sean, out to Europe. We'll miss you. I have a feeling you'll still find a way to enter in the marble race from Europe. Oh, actually, 155 actually made it through. So only about 60 or 70 got thrown over the top rope. There's Dave Lowry and Derminator, our final marble. Wow, it's been a long show today. We do got to get this podcast up, but we appreciate your patience while Reem had car issues to take care of. And hey, thanks to all of our guests today. Kirt Contois, check out the Derby tomorrow. If you want to get ready for Manitoba AS Down season and bet on the Derby, HPIBet.com is the place to do that. Of course, Andrew Collier. Good luck to the Goldeyes, hitting the road right now. They'll be starting the preseason next week. Season starts on the 11th, so that's that's 6 days from now. And then home opener 2 weeks today. And of course, Josh Morrissey. If you missed that first half hour of the show, we got into it with Josh. Thanks again to Wallace & Wallace for the Unsung Hero program. Great way to wrap it up today. And our guy, Kenny Wiebe, who's just on his way to play some hockey this afternoon. Been a great week, folks, and we're not going anywhere. This offseason is just getting going. We'll have much more in the Stanley Cup playoffs, the offseason, Bomber training camp starting in just a few days, Goldeyes season, and of course, playoff hockey for the Moose. Good luck to the Moose tonight. And the Winnipeg Ice will be a big topic next week, getting ready for hopefully the Seattle Thunderbirds and the Lambeau Jets first rounder, Brad Lambert. For Remo, I'm Huss. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday, 1 o'clock, right here on WST.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.